What's going on? 6 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Day 4 of the NFL Combine gets underway with the first day of on-field workouts. You got defensive linemen and linebackers going through drills today. We knew Abdul was not going to work out, but now we have a little more insight as to why. Tests yesterday revealed that the potential number 1 overall pick has a stress fracture in his right foot, and the Penn State standout will need to decide whether he will need surgery now or later. We got a quote from his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. There are mixed opinions on whether he needs surgery, and we will figure that out in the near future. A number of players who were given permission to seek trades in the last few days: Devon Godshaw with the Patriots, Jair Alexander with the Packers, Deebo Samuel with the 49ers. But one who Titans should pay attention to, Rams guard Jonah Jackson, as News 2's Corey Curtis reporting that he is, quote, the Titans are very much on his radar. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW is live, kicking off your Thursday morning right here on 104.5 The Zone, dividing and conquering for one more morning with Ramon Foster from Indianapolis at the NFL Combine, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh right here in Nashville. I am Will Bowling. We have got lots to discuss as workouts begin in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. We've got an injury red flag for a potential number 1 overall pick. We have got Coach Mack talking NFL Combine at 7:20. Mike Wilson previews Tennessee and Alabama at 9:20. Heck, we've even got media fights going on in Indianapolis. It is Friday, Junior, Thursday morning, February the 27th, on a beautiful day in Nashville, Tennessee. Good morning. How are we doing?
Man, doing well.
Good. Yeah, media fights starting off the night or ending the night with a bang last night.
Man.
That was fun.
I wonder will they accurately report on that also. That's
Probably not.
Right?
We mess around with them all the time, man. They're quick to report a player having a speeding ticket or something like that. I need to know the details of this fight, man.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that we're into. Like, hey, the Combine, breaking news happens, and also media fights.
Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it, man. But besides that, late news, like you said, Will, too, man. Goodness. Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
I woke up to that.
Yeah, I did too. The big story of the morning, Abdul has a stress reaction in his right foot. Tests revealed Wednesday, and the Penn State standout will need to decide whether to have surgery or not. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, told ESPN. So he has 2 options, according to his agent, talking to ESPN's Adam Schefter. The first is he could have preemptive surgery, have a screw inserted in his right foot, and return to working out and running in about 8 weeks. 2, he could bypass the surgery, conduct his pro day at Penn State on March 28th, and prove to NFL teams he doesn't need a procedure.
Fascinating. And also the foot doctor out of Carolina also just recently retired. So if they're the option, like you said, to go get the surgery, man, these guys like to go to specialists. I think we saw Klay Thompson recently gift his doctors that repaired his Achilles a championship ring, because that's how important these doctors are at being really good at getting these guys back to 100%. And that's where it becomes, questionable of who's going to do the surgery, how soon they need to go do it, or the decisions behind it, because a lot can go into it. I know a story of a guy, man, that had a similar situation. And we can wait to dive in a little bit later if we get more scenarios about the options, and if he chooses to go forward, if he, just says, I'll let it heal on my own. It's complicated a little bit right now. This is one of the biggest decisions he's got to make in his professional career so far.
Yeah, I almost think that he's at the point where I'm sure teams would love to see him work in person. And the report's a little bit confusing because, so does this mean that if he decides not to do the surgery, to do the surgery, or not to do the surgery during this time, would he do the surgery at all?
No.
I
don't think so.
Yeah, I would say just get it fixed. Honestly.
But he's
take care of
it. And again, get it fixed for sure. It means you shut him down, and he's got to, be off his feet.
8 weeks.
Can't train the way he wants to, and be in a position where, of course, the news around it, the slow start to his rookie year, and just having all of these in between things that, of course, he want to hit the ground running. He's been bragging about being the number one guy, but that's the thing about being injured. Like, are you hurt, as the coaches like to say, or are you injured? And he is actually injured, so it may be smart for him to just go ahead and make that big decision and saying, I'm going to just shut it down, because in order for them to find it here, that's what's so unique about his situation is the fact that they found it here in Indianapolis. He has been running. He has been jumping. He has been going side to side, which means he's been dealing with it. He just didn't know he had it. And the thing about it also is, where is the stress fracture? Is it on the outside of his foot? There are situations where it can be the middle toe. You never know. He probably was doing box jumps. And you know how guys, you know how it is doing box jumps. Hit the front of your foot on it, and the next thing you know, it may have been cracked, and he just thought it was sore.
Yeah.
It's nothing that he can't have weight bearing his weight on it, clearly, but it can become a bigger break later if he doesn't get it fixed or at least shut it down right now.
I agree, Moan. I just think that you're delaying the inevitable. At some point, I think you're going to have the surgery. Why not do it before an NFL season starts and you go to that team? Because, I get it. It'd be nice for teams to see you in person, but you already had the shoulder thing that you're about to heal from. Like, let's just take care of that, too. That's what I would do.
It is. I had a situation. I'll go ahead and tell it now, since we're in the story about Abdul Carter having a stress fracture that he found here at the Combine. It was a guy I played ball with in Pittsburgh. Ended up being an undrafted free agent. Going into draft season, he was labeled as the number one tight end out of South Carolina. This is years back. Wesley Saunders was his name. At least he was one of those day one, day two tight ends. Same thing happened to him. He ended up having a stress fracture on his foot. Decided that he was going to still work out, y'all, and because of that, he hurt it even more. And then he couldn't do his pro day back at South Carolina, and it ultimately made him an undrafted free agent. He had a couple other issues too behind it, but the athleticism, he didn't get that back until well into his rookie year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But this is a guy that, if he had to just shut it down and chose to get a surgery or let his foot heal, then he would have been in a position to potentially at least leave the mystery behind of what kind of athlete he was. But he went out and tested, and he tested bad, and he broke his foot after that. So bad situation for a guy like this. This is one of those, hey, dang if you do, dang if you don't. Of course, he gets to whatever city, let's just say he gets to Nashville, everybody will be on Abdul watch, like when is he getting healthy? And you can't rush it back, because that's the thing about those stress fractures. If you push it a little bit too much, even when it heals, you find yourself in a spot to where you can re-stress and break it again. Those types of things happen. So it'd have to be a longer process. I would want it to be longer than 8 weeks, to where you can really ramp him up before he starts taking on the physical side of camp, or just the rigorous days that you got to go through with OTAs. We know one thing for sure. I think the tempo and what this team has to play with this year is a little bit higher if the Titans are in a position where they take Abdul Carter and you need an impact.
So 8 weeks puts you at the NFL draft, actually. We are 8 weeks today from the draft, April 24th. I don't really care. Like, is that weird? I don't think this is a problem. Like, if this was 8 weeks before the season starts, maybe we're having a different conversation. Obviously, it's not my foot. Like, I don't care is easy to say when you're not the one in pain and you're not the one that has to deal with it and rehab it. But, like, I have a hard time really being overly concerned about a guy who's young, who's got young bones, and who has never been hurt in his college career. He has never missed a game at Penn State. Like, okay, get it fixed. You're fine by April, and, let's go have a good training camp. Like, I just don't. This is probably not even something that would have him miss rookie minicamp, to be honest with you.
That's why
if it heals the way it's supposed to.
Confused that that's such a big
it's
situation that you've got to have surgery or you don't, and then you just keep going with.
Anytime you have surgery, it is a deal. I just don't think it is a massive.
I understand. I've had 3 surgeries. Like, I get it.
Okay, well,
but
for an NFL prospect in the draft process, it is significant if you've got to have a procedure, is what I'm saying.
I think it's significant also if you know that your future's unknown if you don't get the procedure.
Oh, no,
We're
his
saying the same
future's
thing.
not unknown, in my opinion. He's going top 3.
No, I'm just saying if he doesn't get a surgery, he doesn't know necessarily what that will do for his foot moving forward.
That's what
all
we're
I'm
saying.
saying.
Yeah.
Man, ultimately, it's not my foot. It's definitely what the doctor said about LeVar Ball as he lost his, Will. That is the quote of the day. Obviously, it's not my foot. Yeah, as you cut it off, man. That was a fascinating approach, Will. You've been sympathetic to his needs.
I mean,
but
it's one thing if he had surgery tomorrow and this was a 2-month process or a 3-month process. Like, yeah, we're having a different conversation. But 8 weeks, like 2 months, like I just don't like. Guys have things all the time that they get fixed that are ready by June, and they play, and we never know that it happened. Like I don't think it is enough to dissuade the Titans if they love Abdul Carter from still taking Abdul Carter where they want him.
Let's just play devil's advocate a little bit here as we're going to continue to discuss this. Do you want a guy who's already had an issue like this that's this fresh into the 2025 season? Okay, and yes, I know he's young, he's healing well, and he's going to have the best in the world with his agent Drew Rosenhaus facilitating a lot, I'm sure. Or here's the thing, too. If you take him, he has a foot thing, and then the foot thing pops back up. The storylines behind those conversations is he came into the league with an injury. Now, granted, like you said, he should be healed by the draft. But you just hate to have the conversation situation surrounding this new era of Tennessee Titans with Borgonzi and Trav Brinker. Put him in a spot to where you say, man, there we are drafting injured guys again. If he continues, what if it's a foot this time? Next thing you know, it is a shoulder again. It's 2 within the calendar year that he's somewhat dealt with. Now, he's never had a bad issues with injuries. It's just that when you got to discuss it and honestly have hard conversations inside of those draft rooms, hey, this guy's had a shoulder. Never really had one. We'll deal with it. Now he's got a foot. Okay, now it makes you start asking questions. What is the durability going to be like over 17 games if you look at what he's got to deal with as far as the impact on his body? He's never had an issue with it, though.
I think you have to take it into account. I know it's not a huge deal, but I'm sorry, when things are this big under a microscope, A, for this franchise and what they have to do at number 1 and getting it right. 2, you're still mulling over, do you want to take a quarterback? Do you want to go defense? Do you want to go Travis Hunter? Every little thing, I think, matters into the decision-making in this. And I know, the whole trade scenario could happen too. So I think it doesn't play a huge part, but I do think you do take it into account when you are then making your final decision. And maybe one thing is a little bit more like making it lean the other way because maybe he does have some injuries recently.
This is one of those situations, too, where the info that the team will get out of the top 30 visit and out of the combine visit that we will never get is significant. Like, this is what makes the difference between when these teams make decisions based off of privileged info that we don't have, and we're going to pick it apart from the outside. But, they may look at the foot at a top 30 visit and say, great, looks good to us. Not something we feel like is going to pop back up, get it fixed, and you'll be a Titan. So I do not think it's enough to change whatever decision you are already going to make. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like this is not Jeffrey Simmons and his torn ACL. This is not Caleb Farley and chronic back injuries. This is one thing.
But this is also the number 1 overall pick.
Sure, but it's one thing that's popped up that's going to be fixed by April.
But if they don't know what they want to do,
even get surgery.
If they don't know what they want to do exactly yet at number 1 because they're still seeing what's going to unfold, then maybe it does make a difference.
Okay, well then you get checked out.
If they're not 120% in on that yet.
They're going to know more specifics about this than we are. That's the fact of the matter. Yeah, so if they get it checked out and feel like it's not a big deal, then take him. Go for it.
I'm just saying it's not nothing to think about.
615-737-1045 is our number. The Titans were graded by the NFLPA in their yearly survey. They got better in one very interesting category to me that we'll talk about next.
Get the Rolex of your dreams at Genesis Diamonds, y'all. Don't miss this massive 2-day luxury pre-owned Rolex event at Genesis coming up. I plan on trying to make that just so you guys know. Keisha, I know you heard that, all right? This Friday and Saturday, okay, 2 days only. Genesis is showcasing a mind-blowing collection of pre-owned Rolex timepieces featuring a stunning new selection of hard-to-find watches, too. Submariners, Daytonas, Pepsis, Batmans, every Rolex model you can find, man, including never-worn, fresh models that people wait years for. No waiting lists and no retail games either. During this event, you can take advantage of the special pricing and up to 60 months zero-interest financing. And listen to this. With the purchase of any luxury pre-owned Rolex at this event, Genesis will give you a pair of 3-carat lab-grown diamond stud earrings of the highest quality, absolutely free. What an amazing opportunity this is. And if you've dreamed of owning a Rolex, you can't miss this. And listen, if you're already a Rolex owner, bring your old Rolex to trade or meet Genesis buyers on site to receive top dollar for your Rolex. Come and see the largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes in the state and take advantage of the special financing or get a pair of beautiful 3-carat lab-grown diamond stud earrings, yours free. It's 2 days only. It's this Friday and this Saturday, and only at Genesis Diamonds, your home for luxury pre-owned Rolexes. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs, and of course, see store for details.
RKW, Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone. And streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. At Ramon, Kayla, Will, our question of the morning asks, does Abdul Carter's foot injury disqualify him from being the number one pick by the Titans? So far, 4 of you voted, 75% of you saying yes. So head to our Twitter, at Ramon, Kayla, Will. You can make your voice heard on that. 615-737-1045. Guys, we got the NFLPA survey back, and the Titans were better in a few categories. They went from a D+ in treatment of families up to a B+ in 2024 to 2025. The Titans provide daycare during home games, but they are still one of 10 teams that do not provide a family room because they have no room in current Nissan Stadium. There are big plans for a new room for that in new Nissan Stadium. A year ago, the Titans received an F in travel. That grade went up to an A-. 87% of players said they had comfortable personal space on team flights. Brian Callahan put as many players as he could in first-class seats, prioritizing big guys and veterans. Ramon, how comfortable were you on the Titans playing this year?
Me personally, as somebody that was part of the media, I was comfortable. I'll be honest with you. They set it up in a structure to where the folks that aren't playing football on Sundays, man, they get a seat and a half, basically. So rows of 3, you get your seat in the middle, plus another individual after that. Now, when it comes to more staff on the plane, smaller folks at the back of the plane, you might sit 3 to that middle row and just have a little bit of leg room, but it's a part of it. I did notice that last year, too. It was one of my more I guess it was an eye-opener to me. I thought all teams put their starters in first class. I noticed a little bit under Vrabel's regime, they put the players in the back, and that was a little bit of an eye-opener. So, of course, this year with seeing the guys up in first class or those Comfort Plus seats, was definitely going to get a higher billing this year. So it happens. Some teams choose to put players in the back. That way they stay out of the players' conversations. The media is separated from them, and the guys can just be themselves. But going to the games and coming home afterwards, man, for the big dudes and just the starters, I'll be honest with you, it is a first world problem all the way through and through, man. But the luxury of playing this game and understanding that the product comes number one is why guys were upset about it. And, I mean, there'd be assistants sometimes in like the front seats, and those guys are also in the booth and not on the field. So guys get upset about little small things like that, man. We're spoiled to death in these professional leagues. And when you hear your friends on other teams or guys come from other squads, like, they ask the questions, man, y'all don't sit in first class, or the coaches sit up front and y'all sit up back. It just kind of ruins the experience for you more than anything.
So you're saying the biggest thing that changed their grade, and Will, you said it was, I'm looking at it as a B, from an F to a B.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you said A-. So, I mean, that's a significant jump, obviously, for any type of travel. So you're saying it's just because they probably moved, like, some of the veteran players or the bigger players up front, probably? Or did, like, the plane change? Like, I'm just curious, that's a huge change.
No, the plane didn't change.
Huh.
Now, here's the thing, too. The plane's also dependent upon availability and also how far you're flying. So those two things got to correlate. If you're flying West Coast, most times you get the big jumbo jet.
Yeah.
Now, going to, let's say, Miami, or Buffalo. Those flights and planes aren't that huge. So the players still get a seat and a half. So they'll be on the outside with their seat and a half more times than not when they're in the back. And then some guys will be a seat and a half over the middle. What happened this past year was, and I noticed it, we ended up loading up in the back of the plane as far as the media goes, and the players are going towards the front. And they stacked as many players, as I could tell, in those big lay-down comfort seats or those oversized first-class seats. And I think you probably have the coordinators up front. But it was time I saw respectable coaches, and I just won't name them in general, but, like, respectable coaches were a few seats ahead of me. There was more staff just a few seats ahead of me. And it comes down to, like I said, the players – just looking at the way, the respect factor of how I go about my job.
Sure.
When you beat me down as a player, you put me in the back of the plane, you have me in a position to where I'm not comfortable going to the games and coming home afterwards, and you're up front having a good time, laid back, chilling. It just makes you feel a certain type of way. It's an easy fix. You may have some coaches that have never really sat in the middle back part of the plane. They have to make an adjustment. But here's the thing, as I said before, the reason you have your job is because you're supposed to be good at coaching the players to be good. If your players play well, then you still get the benefit of having a job also. So that's why I feel like in those situations, it's always dependent upon the coach. Let's just say that first. But most coaches put their players first, especially the starters. The guys that play special teams and, don't have big roles on the team, they have ways of setting them up to moving them to the back. Like the Titans logistics team, they set the seats as it pertains to the players, their size, and also their importance. That type of stuff happens in this league.
So the other interesting parts of the NFLPA survey for the Titans, the head coach grade went up under Brian Callahan. Mm-hmm. It was a B+ under Mike Vrabel, A- under Brian Callahan. Are we moved by this? Do we care?
I'll say this. I wasn't completely shocked. And I forgot like Mike Vrabel had a B+. I think maybe I thought towards the end of the tenure there was some dividing in the locker room on who liked him, who didn't. So I forgot that was even a B+. It didn't shock me. I think Brian Callahan's, for all accounts, from what I've heard from individual players, even at the end of the year, like they all really respect him. And I think they all think that he has their best interest at hand. Now, that doesn't mean the product, they're happy with the product this last year. And I think that's more of it's on a lot of people, not just one person. But I'm not completely shocked by this, guys. I felt like even with all the trouble that was, there in terms of not winning this season, that locker room was as good as it could be for them having that many losses, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, an upgrade and grade right there for Brian Callahan, man. I'm sure the fans are probably looking at this. He's not a better coach than Vrabel. This isn't is he a better coach type of grade to me. This situation is how the coach make me feel and how important I am to him. We've heard the conversations we had about Vrabel, how he's hard on his guys, how he has this. You have to be a certain type. Mm-hmm. To be a Mike Vrabel player. There's an expectation also from the players to be a certain way for him too. And in that, his communication may have been a little bit different. He's a little bit harder on guys, probably fuss and cuss guys out a little bit more. Now, again, you made a change at a coach that somewhat made the players important. We're seeing the small little things that happen now, training camp and the way it was more about family and re-energizing the building. Those are non-football things. That is, hey, player to player, conversation to conversation, how I view you and how you view me. Those guys may feel like Callahan make them feel more human. Now, the other side of that is you got less production. So it comes down to style. If he was, I think Pete Carroll would be one of those A+ guys each and every year because he coaches them hard, and he also gives his guys the independence and freedom to be themselves from all the things I've heard about a guy like him. But again, I don't think that means Callahan is a pushover or anything like that. You got to think those guys were in a position. A few of them last year were just stating on how you got to be a type for Mike Vrabel. And it seemed like these guys were able to be themselves more this year, too. Kayla, you were around and in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a little bit more loose this year considering other years in the past as it pertains to interaction with the players and how they were just able to let their hair hang down a little bit?
And it's hard to relate that to even years past because they lost so much, So it's hard to kind of separate the attitude of, we're losing and we're in this funk to when you're in the locker room, it is a different type of space, right? And I'd say for the most part, though, even after a loss and then you reset the next week, it's almost like you always felt they could feel like the reset. Like it was never like dragging their feet or whatever. You always had activity going on in there. And I honestly will tell you, at the end of the year, when I had one-on-one conversations with a lot of players, whether it's players that had been there for a while or players that were brand new this year, I'm saying honestly, most of it, if not everything, was positive in terms of Brian Callahan as a coach. Not like what he's doing on the field, but how he handles the players inside the building.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm looking back at articles right now from this past season, as bad as it was. And it's a couple of guys that said a whole lot about him. This was done by Teron Davenport around November 20 of 2024. This is when the skid was happening. And we're talking about how these guys felt about Coach Callahan. Is because of the way he allowed them to be themselves. And that can bite you. But, again, this is a results-based league. And if you lose, of course, people that view how you do your job are going to dislike you when you're losing. But the players that had to deal with him, one of the things that Big Jeff said, man, we got his back and we'll continue to fight. And this fight, this team showed, especially in the second half. He's speaking about how those guys continually go to work week in and week out and day in and day out also. And the way they backed Callahan this year, I think it showed you how they were. Harold Landry, who's up for trade right now, said there's optimism because we know the guys we have in the locker room. We have the right people in the building that's turning this thing around. So we heard that throughout the course of last season. Like, it may have been bad, but those guys were adamant, I felt like last year with the reporting that was done, that it was still good. Like, yeah, you lost on Sundays, but by Tuesday, Wednesday, those guys were back to home base as it pertains to them being reset. And that goes a long way. You just want the winning results behind that. Right. So that's why I think he's got an A.
Yeah, I think it's noteworthy to just say that Brian Callahan did not lose the locker room.
No.
They like him.
They like him.
No, we don't know what that means, but I still think back to how that helped Billy Napier in Florida. Like, guys that sometimes do have turnarounds when they get their players in and can build a foundation and build a culture, sometimes it can be a sign that the coach knows what they're doing. I don't know if Brian Callahan is the guy to take the Titans back to relevance, but at the very least, we can say tangibly that players like playing for Brian Callahan. Now, it didn't help him win a lot last year.
Yeah.
But, a lot of those players weren't very good who probably liked him, but they liked him. Marcus is in Nashville, 615-737-1045. Hey, Marcus.
For real, are we really talking about how much room you got on the plane?
That is exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
I will tell y'all something. If you didn't play good, if you didn't do your job, to the back of the plane you go. That's the way I look at it. Levis would have been there. He would have been on the back seat by the toilet. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying. These are like thugs with, like I said, thugs with peanut butter allergies. I'm so sorry. I just can't see how we got an A because people couldn't have enough room on the plane. I know a lot of people. I know some big people that get charged for 2 seats. So you know what I'm saying? These people are playing football. The way I look at it, if you want that nice luxury seat up front, you need to play a good game. If you play your game good, do your job, you get the front seat. That's how they need to space it out. You know, I ain't worried about your feelings. You make too much money to have feelings. I'm sorry. Play your game, you get the front seat. Don't play your game, get back there with Levis.
Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate the call. Nicholas Petit-Frere hanging on to the wing last season, according to reports.
Dillard the year before.
Hey, Marcus, but here's the thing. The culture of the NFL is just different like that, though. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. Okay, so here's the thing. When you have a coach in place that's somewhat set these things up for years and there's a history of how you go about delegating seats on the plane, here's what I will say, Marcus. You're right. When I was a rookie and in my second year, I sat in the back. I was in that 2-seat side on the right side of the plane where it was a room for me and room for my backpack, and it was comfortable still. Okay? Now, as I'm teetering on becoming a starter, going into my 3rd, 4th year, I got bumped up to first, and I ain't going to lie to you, Marcus, to your point about play good, become a guy, and I was still learning then, but to know that the starters, moved to the front of the plane, that was a, big accomplishment, and it does mean something. And for the teams that don't put their players at the front of the plane and they're not a priority, they don't feel like they are a priority. Again, this is what I say about the NFL. It is fantasy land, okay? There is no other group of people are treated this way other than the president. When you go into cities, the way you get police escorts in the middle of Chicago traffic downtown, and it splits wide open for you. There is a level of expectation about what comes with the job sometimes, especially if you come from another place that did it at a high rate or at a very high level.
Sure.
So, though it matters.
So the Titans also did not rank well in terms of locker room. It was the worst area that they had. They ranked 24th in locker room approval. They had a C-.
Okay.
As players feel space is too small and lockers lack functionality. Really, the two biggest problems that the Titans have had the last couple of seasons have been things that will be fixed by new Nissan Stadium.
Yes. And I can account for that one, being in that locker room trying to do scrums. Like, I feel so bad sometimes having to go around players and they're having to leave their lockers or wait. So I 100% understand that.
How did it look in there, Kayla?
It's scrunched, Moan, honestly, in both the Nissan Stadium one and just their lockers, honestly, back at St. Thomas Sports Park, too. I mean, there's not a lot of room in there.
Are they like wooden lockers?
Yeah.
Like what? Is the carpet dirty and got coffee stains all over?
I'm gonna just say this,
like,
Moan. It's
what?
old. It's old. I've
Those
seen
poor millionaires.
Yeah, I've seen some. I've seen some new
babies.
new locker
Poor
rooms
children.
that ain't like that. But
Yeah,
again,
it's not that deep.
I'm not a
They'll be all
not
right.
a player.
What I will say is this, though. When we went out to Levi Stadium with the 49ers, hey, everybody had a sense of jealousy looking at that stadium.
I bet
all
they
right?
did.
Yeah, it was definitely a upgrade. I'll admit, neither Pittsburgh's practice locker room or game locker room are elite at all. It's bad.
Well,
it's real bad.
And all of these pro players had better facilities in college.
Yeah,
Because college
a lot
teams
of them
spent a
did.
lot more money on this. So we may have over the course of the next 10 years, I'd love to see the bell curve of how much players just hate on locker rooms because they're like, well, we had a slide in my old facility.
Right,
We had a putt-putt course.
hyperbaric chambers.
Well, all the health stuff they still have. It's just they don't have as much space.
I think LSU has like sleeping pods like at their lockers. Like it's like
I don't
crazy.
doubt it. You could tell me anything that these college teams have, and I would believe all of it.
As far as NFL team, most guys was envious of Seattle. Seattle, from what we heard, players we got from them had everything. The cryo chambers.
You got to have room to store
Yeah.
your rain
therapists.
jackets.
Oh, my God.
Because their
Umbrellas.
training facility's fairly new there.
Ooh, yeah.
615-737-1045 is the number. The Titans have been linked to an interior offensive lineman. Friend of the show, Jeremy Fowler, says they are looking at a guard from the NFC, who we'll tell you about next.
It's Ramon Foss for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Y'all, they have been in business, man, since 1990. Even cooler than that is, they are family-owned and operated. Jimmy Hiller, yes, familiar with the last name. Well, he was recently named amongst the most admired CEOs, and it's because of the way he truly cares for his team and his clients. Hiller takes care of the customer on every job, every time, and they stand by their work so much that 100% satisfaction is what they believe in. And their slogan is happy you'll be or the service is free. If a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, they will make it right, all right? And most importantly, they send their professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians into your home and they leave it cleaner and better than they found it. Best part about all of this is, of course, what you watching your pockets is this. Hiller offers true transparency. What this means is if Hiller will line item every part of the job up front so the homeowners can easily understand what they're paying for and why. Look, if you need something done around your house right now, whether it be plumbing, heating, cooling, or electrical, reach out to the folks that I trust at happyhiller.com.
Thursday morning on RKW, we call it Friday Junior. 615-737-1045, our number. Ramon Foster in Indy, Kayla Anderson and Will Bowling here in Nashville. So according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Los Angeles Rams have given interior offensive lineman Jonah Jackson permission to seek a trade. 28-year-old who signed a 3-year deal with the Rams last offseason as a free agent. He had a fractured scapula early in the season. The team's offensive line, the report says, gelled without him. When he was activated in November, as a group, the O-line did not play well against Miami, and he got benched. So only 4 games played last season for a guy who has 2 years left on his contract. And the additional reporting, Corey Curtis put this out there when saying that Jeremy Fowler says they have given him permission to seek a trade. Says the Titans are very much on his radar. Are you interested in trading for Jonah Jackson?
Particularly right now, no. I can't give a no to that because, again, he's going to be a value guy, potentially a 4th-round pick at minimum for a dude like him, former Pro Bowler, and I know there's a position of need for a guy like him too. So, no, I'm not at this point. You can't get me on board with trading assets, not even for a quarterback, in my opinion. If he's already in a position where he can go seek a trade, then they're probably at some point going to cut him. So I'd much rather wait and see instead of trying to go get an immediate response to your needs right now with a free agent. I mean, with the contracted player.
Yeah, that's interesting in terms of, I know the need is there, right? You need a guard, you need a tackle. How they're going to address it, I think, starts in free agency. But if you are at this point having to give up anything for a guy who, I understand he's a former Pro Bowler when he was with the Detroit Lions because he's only spent that 1 year, I think, with the Rams. I understand, like, this guy is no scrub. But unfortunately, it is your newest result. And I just feel like to give up anything for a guy like this who was benched, only played 4 games last year, I'm with you, Moan. If he is let go, by all means, like, let's go get him in terms of the Titans. But I just don't think they can give up anything at this point.
Jonah Jackson has not played a full season healthy since 2021 when he was a Pro Bowler at 24 years old with the LA Rams. He turned 28 3 weeks ago, so he will be 28 years old this upcoming season. I don't think he's worth much, to be honest with you. I think this is a pick swap kind of guy. Okay. Going into 28 years old, coming off of an injury, only played 4 games, got benched. I have no interest at all in trading for him because basically what I hear when a team says given permission to seek a trade is we're going to cut you, so let's see if we can get you. We'll get a little bit of something for you before we cut you. So if you really want Jonah Jackson, you just wait until they cut him and you sign him. Honestly, I would rather have Dylan Radins than trade for Jonah Jackson.
And there's a lot of that permission to seek trades going on right now. I mean, I know it's the time of year, but I feel there's an overload of situations like that going on right now.
Teams trying to control that cap, man, and there's I mean, not Detroit. The Rams in a position where they're trying to figure out Matthew Stafford and trim off the extra fat as it pertains to these guys that hadn't been productive for them. When you end up having a fractured scapula in week 2, and then there's a guy that pretty much becomes a new starter at that spot too. Whoever his reserve guy was or the guy they had in his place was probably in a position that played just as good as he did. And why not go get that guy for a cheaper value? It comes down to management of team, hard decisions that have to be made like this. And the other side, like you said, Kayla, in these type of situations, it's a, hey, we will either cut you or we're going to ask you for a pay decrease. Which one do you want? Oh, neither? Well, guess what? Go find a trade, and that's a risky price to pay for a guy that's that is coming off an injury like that and hadn't been healthy, from what Will said, since 2021. The best ability for an offensive lineman is his availability. We make stats. Your stats are the starts that you have in this league and how reliable you are with those.
Johnny is in Hendersonville. Next up, 615-737-1045. Hey, Johnny.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thank you for taking my call.
Yep.
Hope everybody's enjoying this nice weather the last few days. But, Moan, I got a little kind of, not a bone to pick with you, but since you got experience I feel like, are we at the point now at the Titan organization where, like, we're complaining about leg room or we need a bigger locker room? Or I feel like the next thing we're going to hear about loose doorknobs. I just feel like the entitlement is there. You know what I mean? Like, none of these accommodations, in my opinion, help you win. And the only way to kind of counter that is to win ball games. I mean, we can all know a little leg room as long as we're winning playoff games. But I just think that's a little silly, man. I mean, here's my opinion. You give me a long snapper salary, I'll be getting ready in the janitor room. I guarantee you that. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, Johnny.
Here's the thing, Johnny. You are right, but that ain't the NFL world.
No, it's not.
It's not the NFL world. And I know what you mean by, like, give me a snapper's salary. You know what happens? You also get higher expenses, and then you want more money. And, I go live in a shack in the woods. No, it ain't like that. Like, and I know what you mean. I get what you're saying. You're a bunch of spoiled guys that are already making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here's a quick pro tip, too. Not everybody's a millionaire in this league also. And it just simply come down to the reinvestment of your assets. These players are also assets to the team. So to give a tip of the cap to a guy that get a bigger seat, or you bring in more massage therapists for him so the product is readily available, and you pretty much nix every question you have as it pertains to how you treat your pros. Now, you're right. You can do it that way and give guys powdered eggs like the Cincinnati Bengals do, and they still get an F on their cafeteria. And you don't want to diss the guys that work for them. But there is an expectation. Here's my thing, too. The NFL is a multi-billion-dollar league. To give the guys up front or to lease out a bigger plane ain't a big expense.
Right. It's not overly whiny, I think, from the players, honestly. I mean, like, they are asked to kind of complain and be honest within this. So I feel like we so often ask athletes to be honest with us and be themselves and, hold us accountable, and then we get mad at them when they are honest. Like, we can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
To that point, Cincinnati, though, it is kind of crazy how bad they are at just the simplest thing. So their treatment of families got them an F-.
Jeez, that's a thing?
They are one of 3 teams that do not offer daycare during home games.
Matters.
And one of 10 teams that don't have a family room, which, again, the Titans are one of those 10 because they don't have room in the current stadium they're in, but they will have one in the new stadium. Food and dining, F, Cincinnati. The Bengals rate the taste of their team's food at a 4.8 out of 10. The freshness is a 5.4 out of 10. And their dining area is a 5.9 out of 10. They want more meals to be provided throughout the week. The team does not provide 3 meals a day and is one of only 2 teams in the league that do not do so.
That is nuts
to me. You think the Titans are complaining. The Titans are in the middle of the pack in this survey.
And look, food matters more than anything. Like, you're at that facility. Moan, you spend so much time there. Like, if you don't have what you need, I will agree with that 100%. That's Bobo.
And that's what it is, too. That's what I was going to bring up when our caller came in. Also, like, you're there more during the season, during OTAs and minicamp than you are with your family. So the locker room comfort matters. Having the ability to be able to take a nap matters. Mm-hmm. The food that you eat matters. Like, you want them eating fried chicken and French fries every single day, or or do you want something nutritious to help those guys actually train and be better too? Like, it's the things of, again, the teams have to reinvest in the players too, and the amount of time that you just give. And the expectation of play also matters when it comes down to it being a partnership of players and teams.
615-737-1045 if you want to join us as Hour 2 begins next. Tom Brady stepped in it. A report came out, and then we saw a lot of cover-ups yesterday from national media. How that relates to the Matthew Stafford sweepstakes coming up next.
Hey, you want to look and feel better about yourself here in 2025. This can be the year that you grow your hair back fuller and thicker. Hey, it's Kayla. I went to We Grow Hair, I'm talking about maybe 9-10 months ago almost, and have grown my hair back. I was losing that in the temples where a lot of us, as we get older, that's an area that we lose hair. And this has been a huge confidence booster. We Grow Hair right here in Nashville has been doing this for almost 30 years with proven solutions that work. I'm actually going in after the show today to get my laser therapy. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes. You're in and out the door, and this has definitely helped with the growth of my hair along with their PRP treatments. But if you need more hair in just one procedure, they got you covered there too. No one else in Tennessee has the ARTIS robotic FUE procedure and multi-unit hair grafting, hair transplants. That's going to give you 2 times more hair in just one procedure. So go ahead and do yourself a favor here in 2025 to grow your hair back. All you got to do is give them a call, 615-376-6010. That's 615-376-6010, or go to wegrowhair.com.
What's going on? 7 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I am Robert Walsh. Day 4 of the NFL Combine gets underway, and the first day of on-field workouts. You get to see the defensive line and linebackers. They'll be going through drills. We know Abdul not going to work out, but we have some more insight as to why. Test yesterday revealing that the potential number 1 overall pick, Abdul has a stress fracture in his right foot. His agent saying there are mixed opinions about whether he needs surgery. We will figure out in the near future whether he will do so. A number of players who were given permission to seek a trade in the last few days. Devon Godshaw, Jair Alexander, Deebo Samuel, but the one Titans should pay attention to, Rams guard Jonah Jackson. News 2's Corey Curtis reporting that the Titans are very much on his radar. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Seven a.m. hour number 2, RKW 104.5 The Zone. Ramon Foster in Indianapolis. Kayla Anderson and Will Bowling here in Nashville. We'll be joined by Coach Mack of Titans Radio coming up in 20 minutes from the table in Indy. And take your phone calls throughout the morning at 615-737-1045. Comments go in the F&M Bank chat, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Guys, Tom Brady stepped in it. Ooh. He made a mistake, and now we've got a source off that resulted in a media fight in an Indianapolis Starbucks. I love everything about this story. So Jordan Schultz of Fox says Tom Brady recently hosted Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford at Brady's home in Montana. Now remember, Matthew Stafford has permission to seek a trade. He does not have permission to meet with ownership, though. Different than seeking a trade. So, per the report, they spent time together and went skiing. Brady has been actively trying to convince Stafford to join the Raiders, and discussions are ongoing. I think it is relevant that Jordan Schultz is at Fox. Tom Brady is also at Fox. These are technically colleagues. Yep. Ian Rappaport of NFL Media then reacted to the report by explaining that Brady and Stafford, quote, ran into each other at a ski resort in Montana, that the unplanned meeting was not extensive or in-depth and did not include Brady hosting or recruiting Stafford. Guys, let's be honest. If you think Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford just ran into each other skiing in Montana, you are extremely naive. This was a meeting, then they realized, oh crap, we could be in trouble for tampering, and then they covered their tracks on this. That is all that happened.
By the way, when you're just skiing in the offseason, there are a lot of teams that will put on, contracts and specific things where if you get hurt, like that's on you. Like that you're not going to get some of your money, because if you get hurt and you're out, like that was on you, that you went up and went skiing. Like those are things that are real too. So it is interesting that if they just bumped into each other on the mountain, like I'm just picturing this whole thing play out. But I did hear something good this morning on 2 Pros and a Cup of Joe. It could be your cup or a tea or not on that show. But I will say it did make sense when Brady Quinn mentioned that these are 2 insiders. Jordan Schultz, obviously a little bit younger, not new in the business, but hasn't been around it as much as Adam Schefter has. And I think there's a way that the NFL expects you to handle your business in terms of an insider, because a lot of things are given to you when you get to that point. And so it is interesting that maybe Jordan Schultz divulged too much in terms of exactly what happened, which I do believe that is exactly what happened. And Shefty was like, oh, whoa. Let's bring it back here. I'm going to be the good guy here, so everybody's happy, making it seem like it wasn't this planned out meeting. So I thought that was an interesting take on how this whole thing might have went too.
And Stafford got a thing for meeting people at and meeting people at vacation spots, man.
Yeah, he
Wasn't it him and Sean McVay in Cabo a few years back? It's crazy how he just ends up in the same places in the place and meet the people that he want to go to in their destinations, man. That to me wasn't I don't think it was a coincidence. I don't look at his situation and say, yeah, they just so happen to be in Montana this time of the year and catching each other. No, this was recruiting. Tom is, again, we speak about like the different world of the NFL players. Let's go that route. Like you operate in certain ways that you don't know the normal side of it. And Tom's on the ownership. Tom's in a position to where he tried to use his player style to get him over the top. It's laughable that they're trying to cover it up right now, Kayla, and I agree with you. I think Jordan took some information, ran with that information when he wasn't supposed to because everybody at Fox may have been talking about it. Tom's got to be very careful with this, if it's true, on how he ended up meeting up with Matthew Stafford. That can mean fines for a guy like, for an organization like the Raiders.
So ProFootballTalk.com, Mike Florio wrote about this and said, it is odd to see any reporter who came of age in the internet era downplaying a report that emerged via a digital platform as an internet rumor. Don Yee is essentially saying, who is Tom Brady's longtime agent, says, I know that reporters sometimes make mistakes in their haste, but this story is inaccurate. First of all, nobody speaks like that, Tom. You're not beating the robot allegations by saying things like, I know that sometimes reporters make mistakes in their haste, but this, just talk like a normal human, first of all, Tom.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. It is very interesting, and I think it does show the Raiders' interest in Matthew Stafford.
You know who would absolutely love for this to be a story in their sport or in their world? NCAA football.
Okay. I don't think they would love it.
No, I'm just saying the fact that it could be reprimanded. Like, you can't reprimand it now in college football. Like, you got NFL people trying to reel it back in on tampering from Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford. And the NCAA right now, league below it, has none of that. So I just wanted to correlate that storyline of Tom and Matthew Stafford tampering, allegedly, to what the NCAA is begging somebody to get a hold of when it comes to retaining players and not being illegal and being above board with your recruiting. So
it is funny real quick too, though. Tom Pelissero is the one who tweeted, reached for comment about an internet rumor that Tom Brady hosted Matthew Stafford on a recruiting visit. That's not an internet rumor. This is a report from Jordan Schultz of Fox. And it's very, very telling the way Tom Brady's agent wants this characterized, because when you hear reports from people on NFL Media and ESPN.com and The Athletic, with all due respect, that is coming straight from players' agents. This is coming straight from Tom Brady's agent, who wants this characterized as a rumor that is inaccurate. That's all this is.
And I think the timing is interesting, too, because you've got everybody who are the big shots over at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. And here in Montana, which I've lived in Montana, it's pretty remote out there. And I know that they live over in the Bozeman area, is a lot of where these athletes have homes and everything. It's pretty, kept to themselves. Like, there's not a lot of people there. There's not a lot of, cameras and anything like that. So you can do business sometimes without people knowing. But I think you're right, Will. You mentioned with them being colleagues at Fox, one thing goes through that office and you start hearing stuff, and Jordan Schultz is like, well, this is my opportunity to kind of jump on this huge story, because everyone's courting Matthew Stafford right now that needs a quarterback for the most part. So I think it was interesting timing, too, that it happened in this remote place while everybody else is at the Combine.
In our YouTube chat, Bubba and Dixon brought up the fact that the Miami Dolphins and Tom Brady saga also that fell into ownership trying to court him, and I thought they got reprimanded behind that also. So This has been a frequent thing with Tom. Tom, again, still has that old players mentality to where he feel like he can get by with stuff because players sit in the first class seats on planes. That's why.
All that being said, Jordan Schultz would absolutely dust Ian Rappaport. I don't know if you guys keep up with the drama between this kind of stuff, like in the offseason. Ian Rappaport is a great reporter. He is also a tool. I'm sure a lot of people who media adjacent to him were probably like, oh, thank God somebody finally got in this dude's face. I mean, the guy, and when you're reporting news like this, when you're talking about stories like this, you can kind of have the know-it-all aspect, and I'm sure at that level, he's probably got that vibe to him where it's like, why would I even listen to this CEO's kid talk about some report? I'm gonna tweet really quick a snarky, oh, who is this behind me putting hands on me? Oh no. And I love the aside at the end of it, like Ian Rappaport said, I contacted security because there was a physical threat made. Of course you would. You're a geek. You're the guy that got shoved in lockers. Of course you would ask
like
security.
5'2", I think.
That's why he stands on a box every time there's a headshot next to Tom Pelissero.
I saw him yesterday, and you guys know, like, the push buttons on, like, doors exiting out of buildings. He was barely taller than that. Like, he's not that tall.
So we have the basic script of the way this happened, which I did not know that Jordan Schultz is the son of former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz.
I had no clue.
So this happened in home field territory. This was a road game for Ian Rappaport. This happening at an Indianapolis Starbucks. So apparently Rappaport was talking to an agent. Jordan Schultz comes up to him and says, we need to talk, or specific words to that effect, Mike Florio says. By the way, also, Mike Florio lives for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is the best day because now Mike Florio's not the punching bag for
It's
once.
my time to shine.
He's like, wow, y'all like you like me?
Yeah.
You want me? So Rappaport replies, we don't need to talk. Schultz then made accusations about Rappaport. Florio says Rappaport, we're told, regards the accusations as unfounded. The two men were face to face, and Schultz says, if you have anything to say it to me, say it to my bleeping face. If this continues, we're going to have a bleeping problem. Jordan Schultz of Fox says. Rappaport told him to step back. He says, if this happens again, we're going to have a problem. Now I'll step back. And Rappaport declined to comment. Jordan Schultz said, of course he commented because it's Jordan Schultz. He said, it isn't really anything too much. Ian Rappaport and I had a verbal confrontation. It lasted over a minute. Multiple agents and reporters were nearby. Rappaport was the one who called security shortly after. It never escalated further. These guys love this crap, man. They love so much that we're talking about it.
Insider battle in the ring.
I tried so desperately to find dramatic reading music to put
Right?
behind you while you read this. I wish we could have, if we would have had more
Should have
time.
reenacted it.
That's exactly what I was saying. If we could have done this, I would have been the playmaster and given you all parts. And
That
Will
would be
would have been the
fun.
narrator. We could have had a dramatic reenactment. If we had more time to prep, those are the things I would do. If we weren't in
Somebody
morning radio.
could have been the barista.
Yeah.
Yeah, your
sure.
extra hot, no foam white mocha with skim milk is ready. Order for Ian.
Yeah.
Cake pops.
Order for Ian at the bar.
And y'all know the rules too. Jordan Schultz, the rules are you can't get beat up on your home grass. Like
Right.
Starbucks is home for him.
Yeah,
like, can you imagine
they're actually,
him
Ramon,
getting beat up at Dad's
They're
house?
actually going to have a home and home. They're going to do the next one at Dunkin'. Today. They're going to have their separate conversation at Dunkin' Donuts later today.
Well, that's the reason I heard he got mad is because he tried to walk to Dunkin'. It's like, no, you go to my dad's shop.
You can get some good action on the second home match, though. It looks like Ian is a plus 8.5 point favorite.
It's
so.
funny. I actually heard Ian Rappaport
underdog.
is such an easy target for these guys that Jake Paul is actually scheduled to fight with Ian Rappaport coming up later this year on
I'm
Netflix.
in. Let's see it.
We need to pile in on this. All the players need to be tweeting about this because they talk
I
about
know.
y'all all the time. Like,
Yes.
if the players aren't running with this, then something's wrong, man.
I
What are
agree.
they
Still better than the
about?
Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, the Jordan Schultz, Ian Rappaport Starbucks battle of 2025.
Exactly.
Better than the Tyson fight this past summer. Yeah,
That's right.
this had a lot of details to it, and
Anyway.
we didn't see butt cheeks either from
Oh,
Mike
Just upset there was no video. If you took a video of
wish
this
there-
and it didn't come out,
Starbucks has a camera, a security camera.
Oh.
It's got to
Well,
be
but
somewhere.
it wouldn't have audio, though.
You
I need
know
to
what?
hear
Y'all got to remember, the TMZ is on West Coast time. We'll get it about 8 o'clock
Yep.
today.
ooh, don't tease me.
TMZ will
Journalists
find
love
it.
taking sideways phone videos of things from their perspective, and the fact that we didn't get this is a slight to journalists everywhere
I
around
know.
Indianapolis.
Somebody should have their phone out.
615-737-1045. Coach Mack of Titans Radio joins us next. RKW on 104.5 The Zone this Thursday morning.
Oh, goodness.
And Coach David Geddes joins us right now, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, South's most trusted Ford dealer. Two Rivers Ford. Mac, what's up?
Bert.
Well,
Love that rendition.
I'm here. I'm here at a very professional organization at the Combine. I've been here for every year they've had it, which is a lot. And when I come on to try to do a professional radio program, the first thing I hear is my man Bert in the background singing "Return of the Mac." I mean, you can't beat it.
Hey,
No,
was he
you
on
can't.
Very
key,
beautiful
Coach
song.
Mack? Was he on key right there for the song, or he was Bert key?
He was really, really bad.
Yeah. What's worse, Coach Mack, him or reporters fighting?
First of all, I don't think you could call that a fight. I mean, I could look around this room that we're in right now, and I could not find two people that have been in a real fight in their life.
And the two might,
Fair enough.
well, we got three. We got me, Coach Mack, and Kirby, I'm sure, man.
Now, the three of us could probably clean this room out in about 14 seconds.
Yeah, what would they call that in West Texas? Two guys just yelling at each other in a
Yeah.
Starbucks?
They wouldn't even bat an eye. Everybody would just walk right past them into the bar. Not even look at it.
Yeah, hurry up and check out, man. I got stuff to do.
I love it.
You know what, Will? We were talking on break over here. You know what wouldn't have happened, Coach Mack? They wouldn't have tried that at a Waffle House.
Let me tell you something. Whoever worked behind the counter at a Waffle House would have whooped both their asses in a second.
Seen some
Yeah.
stuff.
I just was in one last weekend. We went and had food there on
sounds so
Friday,
good.
and both the cook and our waitress, by the way, female, awesome ladies, would have kicked anyone's butt.
That's why I say don't mess with real people.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These other characters, right? Coach Mack? I'm with you,
5'5"
man.
reporters are not real people. The summary of this.
Well, I mean,
I'll say it.
not in a combat sport.
No, that's fair.
Come on, Will, man. Don't dog the short kings like
Nah, it's
that.
all right.
man.
Look, I don't have much going for me, but I got the height, so I gotta flex what I got, Moan. Come on.
And which is what they're checking for at the Combine,
That's
Coach
right.
Mack. The height.
Good segue.
There we go. There we
Good
go.
segue. Well, Mac, I was gonna say, have you found any other service dogs to throw tennis balls to?
Every
Because
one
your
of
guy
them.
Nacho.
Look, as soon as I walk up to one, I've met every one of them here, and of course I've done that for every year.
Who's better, the dogs or the people you've met, Coach Mack?
They're both good. The first question I always ask throughout the years is, does this dog live with you? And when they say yes, well, then I know. I mean, I've met every one of them. I mean, my favorite still is Nacho because he carries two tennis balls in his mouth at the same time.
Oh, nice.
And as soon as he sees me, he comes sprinting, which is absolutely outstanding. These dogs are amazing. They really are. But have I met them? Every one of them.
That's the important
Wouldn't
analysis.
expect anything less, Coach.
Well, by the end of the week, they will invite me out back where they all are, and we'll take
That's
a group
awesome.
picture.
The restrained
Measure
Coach
their
Mack,
paw size later.
Yeah.
The restrained Coach Mack to not be childish about the dog carrying two balls in his mouth was insane.
All
Coach
right.
Mack. I
well, anyway,
appreciate
so
Oh,
from the
my
NFL
God.
Combine in Indianapolis,
Well, yeah,
it. Two tennis balls.
Coach David Geddes
Good
with us this
Lord.
morning. Coach Mack, when you talk about a player like
get
Abdul
fired.
Carter, who yesterday in his medical checks at the Combine
Right.
learns he has a stress reaction, when teams will meet with him now on those top 30 visits at the Combine, how much now will the Titans have the ability to have their medical people take a look at that and evaluate it, and what is that process like now for him?
all of them will. I mean, everybody. I mean, all of them will. That would just be part of his evaluation process, going forward, and then deciding if and when he's going to have a procedure. I mean, all of that stuff. That's why this Combine is so valuable, because there is nothing hidden here. I mean, there's nothing hidden. And not that anybody's trying to hide anything, but the medicals are so thorough here. It's really incredible. I mean, there have been guys through all the years that I've been here that have actually found out something here, like with a heart issue that would affect, that's genetic, that would affect their whole family, and their whole family benefited from it because they went and got tested. I mean, I've been involved with all of that. So the medicals here are of extreme importance. And in Abdul Carter's case, it will be part of his evaluation process now, Will.
Mac, it's interesting when you talk about the interview process as well. Ramon has made the point that so many teams try to make you mad and try to really get you off your game a little bit and really see what ticks. Those 18-minute interviews, it happens very fast. I know teams all have different philosophies on what matters to them, but as a position coach, I know Brian Callahan mentioned, Mac, the other day that he likes to bring in position coaches within those interviews to talk with prospects. How often, as a position coach, were you in these meetings, and what was that like for you?
I've been at every meeting. Since I first started in the league, I've been fortunate enough, and all the teams I've been with, I've been in every meeting. And then, especially when I was coaching linebackers, I was conducting the meeting. First of all, as an assistant coach, you make the point of attack tape. They'll give you guys to make tapes, so you make point of attack tapes. And I was on another broadcast with another, in another area talking about these point of attack tapes. Point of attack tape, it's not a highlight tape. Point of attack tape is where a player is directly involved in the process during the play, and you put both plus and minuses in there because you want to be able to talk to the player about what were you looking at here, what happened here, what was the call. If you weren't in the right place, why weren't you? What were you seeing? But the assistant coaches are a huge, huge part of this. And most of these things, when you get into these meetings with these guys, most of the area scouts have already done extensive interviews with these people. They know these guys, boots on the ground from the ground up. All right? Your national scouts, they've got a pretty good idea of an overview. But then the coaches get involved. They start being able to dig into the player as far as the player part of it. The player part of it is extremely, extremely important. And in that, if I had Ramon, I would make a point of attack tape on him, run and pass, both to him, away from him. What are you doing here? What are you seeing here? What happened here? How in your mind, did you get beat here? How did you get beat here? What would you have done to have prevented that? That's when you start really talking ball. But the assistant coaches are the ones that are in charge of those point of attack tapes, which, look, in 18 minutes, if they've got all that other background stuff, you'll get 10 or 12 minutes. And if you're organized with your tape and have got your script out in front of you, which you always put together, there's a lot that goes into this, then you can cover a lot of ground and then decide whether you want to bring those people back in or you're satisfied with the answers that you got.
Coach Mack, that is a fascinating thing, too. The way it was at the Combine. When I came here, a lot of the players was in the big ballroom, and the assistant coaches had the ability to be at the team table and pull guys who were standing on the wall like we were, hey, come over here and sit down with us and view some tape. I'll never forget, and it's one of those things that I think in football it's not good to have one and dones because there's so much to ingest and learn over your 3 years in college. And I remember sitting down with one of those Cincinnati's. I think it was Anderson that was helping out with their staff there, Coach Mack, and we're sitting down talking about blocking schemes. And I'm telling him, I knew I needed to do this on this play because the safety was moved over. And his eyes looked up, like, you watch safeties on play? It's like, these are the things that these coaches and scouts and assistant coaches ask you and want to know about the player because it's more than just playing football sometimes.
No, that's so true, Ramon. What you're talking about is we used to call it the train station.
At the train station.
You go to the train station, and then you'd gather a group of coaches. When I coached the linebackers, I'd get 6 or 7 guys, coaches in the league. We'd have our own table, and we'd just bring because that's where the overflow goes after If you're not involved in the primary interview, well, then that was a huge part of it. And you're right. It was like a round table with all of them.
It was.
And to your point, as a coach, when you're sitting there, even if you're not the primary interview at the train station, which, we went through every person here. It's not just the interviews that take place in the scheduled interview room. Yeah. Those interviews are very, very, very important. And if I'm sitting at a table and all of a sudden I catch that and hear that from a player, I'm going to go, I'll make a check mark and go, I need to talk to him some more. Need to find out. There's nothing here that is not important. And here's the other thing that a player, and I always used to tell players this, you never know who's watching, when they're watching, and what they're watching. Even the guys that are in charge, the group leaders, because you got a scout that's a group leader that takes these guys all around everywhere they go. We will interview the group leaders. Who was on time? who wasn't, who's the guy you're always waiting on, who's the guy that's a pain in the ass with the group, who's the guy that the guys in the group kind of start to follow, because it happens.
It does.
All of that stuff's important here.
So, Coach Mack, speaking of importance, then that's what I was going to ask you next. What's more important in this Abdul Carter situation, the player or the injury, Coach Mack? Because you gotta have to watch it. He's got enough time to get healthy before the draft, but if you're evaluating them, number one overall, if they stay, what's more important to you, him, the athlete, or his injury?
Well, you know who the athlete is.
Okay.
You already know who the athlete is. That's on tape. When he's healthy. Now you want to know about his health, and especially this is a player that's an upper echelon player. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's so important. You want to know not only how much he's going to, or when he's going to be able to play, how serious is this. How much will he miss? When will he have him? Because the player's ability, his playing ability, is not in question. But it's just like anybody else that gets injured. You want to find out when, how bad,
how long,
when they'll be able to be available. If it's something that is going to make them available immediately, well, then that's a non-issue. But that's, again, the importance of this place is able to unearth all of those things for all the players.
Coach Mack is with us, and he is live at the NFL Combine in Indy, sitting with Moan there, if you're listening to us and can't see. So speaking of that edge spot, Titans recently have given Harold Landry permission to seek a trade. You've been in situations in terms of coaching staffs where you see this happen. What is usually the reason? Is it a money thing? Is it an age thing? Or is it a little bit of both, Coach, in terms of what could possibly be the situation here for the Titans?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's not unusual in the league anymore. It's just not. Once free agency and the salary cap came into being, this is a common occurrence, and it normally takes place, with a veteran player that and the clubs usually will acquiesce to that and say, go ahead and see. Yeah. Go ahead and look, because again, there's nothing hidden. So there's nothing unusual about it. I mean, there really isn't. Now, each individual case, Kayla, is different. I mean, each individual case is different. Now, a lot of times when you have a guy that is early in his career that requests a trade, then you start to question, well, what went on in that short period of time? But, Harold Landry's been a very productive player. Yeah. He had an ACL injury that he lost a whole year on, that he came back, rehabbed it, came back, and was still had 9 sacks, was a contributor. But you never deny, especially veteran players, once they reach this point, you never deny them that chance to go out and look and see, unless you're just absolutely, say, no, you can't, because contractually, they're still part of your club. Yeah. So, I mean, each case is different without being in the building with the cases. I mean, I've been in this situation before as a coach at all different levels. And then, the higher you go up the flagpole with the levels when you're coaching in this league, the more you know about the intricate details. Where I'm sitting now, I don't know the details, but I know the occurrence is not unusual.
Coach, when it comes to some of the stuff that we heard from Mike Borgonzi a couple days ago at the podium, he mentioned free agency and maybe how they'll navigate that. And specifically, I heard the word, we're going to be disciplined in the way that we do things. What does that mean to you in terms of how they could navigate this free agency coming up?
Well, I mean, you got a plan. They've got a plan. Mike Borgonzi was on with us with the OTP on Tuesday, and it was absolutely really good. People need to look at that on the Titans website, because he was really, really good. I mean, and he's very honest. These guys, I mean, they were down in the lobby this morning, all of them gathered up, getting ready to go to work early with what's going on. They've got a plan. Being disciplined just means having a plan. Having a plan, and being brand new, coming in as a group, they've got a plan on it, and you've got to be judicious with your money. But the thing that people need to understand with free agency, with the way the CBA was constructed now, because it used to be the money that was out there for the salary cap, you didn't have to spend it.
Right.
You didn't have to. Now, within a 3-year period, you got to spend, close to 90% of it. And so it's not a matter of spending money. It's spending money judiciously where you want to, and to find out how it should be an addition to your football team rather than a way to construct your football team on an annual basis. And so that's what free agency is about, and that's what he's talking about being disciplined with it and being able to not only make it fit money-wise, but make it fit personality-wise and structure-wise for the guys that you bring in, because you got to have a particular reason that you're bringing a veteran in for a pretty good piece of money.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Mack, when it comes down to these interviews and these guys being able to clear their name on some stuff, not everybody's squeaky clean coming out of college. Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall, has some issues. There's other guys we've heard about. James Pierce, maybe you have to clean up some stuff as far as his time at Tennessee and stuff like that. When you look at that, Coach Mack, and you have those guys in those meetings and nobody speaks about this stuff, do you appreciate a guy that may tell you the absolute truth, or if you know that somebody's lying to you, does it affect how you feel about them as a prospect? Because at the end of the day, I've learned in this league, if a player has talent and can play, that player's going to get on a team. But with Mike Green, he somewhat said those were false, and he cleared those up. Do you believe the player, or do you enjoy it more when they be honest about what their situation is?
You got to be honest.
That matters more?
Yeah, it matters a lot.
Okay.
I mean, because, this is the National Football League. I mean, I've worked for teams that hire a guy 300 days a year to go out and crawl through.
And this is before the draft.
Oh, a year before.
Wow.
A year before, to go out to to everywhere and just and find out things. Because it's important, and that that's a great. Mike Green sat and talked with us at the Senior Bowl, but when you start digging into it, you've got to know as much about the person. The person is as important as the player.
Yeah.
Now, as you say, if you've got the ability to play over and above most of the people that you're being compared to, then you're always going to be able to. But you want to know. Because if something happens character-wise early on that's going to keep you from being able to play, well then that's an issue too. So honesty, I mean, you've got to be honest. You as an organization have to be honest with the player, and the player has to be honest with you, because again, nothing is left uncovered here. People need to understand that. I mean, you cannot get away with saying anything false here, because the truth will come out here, because there's so many people investigating it.
He is Coach Mack, presented by Two Rivers Ford, Thursdays at 7:20 here on RKW. Mack, we appreciate you as always, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, how's Rhett look? Does he look
Rhett
good?
Bryan flexing in the back of the camera shot. What's going on? I love it.
See, we got
the whole gang here.
Everybody here that's important, but the most important is Kirby. Is most important here, and behind the glass, one of the all-time great tenors in radio, Bert.
Sir Bert.
Fantastic.
See you guys.
Good to see you, Mac. Thank you, sir. There's Coach Dave McGinnis with us this morning. Coming up, there is a Big Ten coach that says, why is there any reason to ever play good non-conference teams? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
So there is a college football coach that is really just being honest with us about scheduling non-conference games. It's RKW 104.5 The Zone, wrapping up hour number 2. And there is a Tennessee tie to this because Nebraska has just canceled a home-and-home with Tennessee in 2026 and 2027. So their head coach, Matt Rule, was on the podcast with Urban Meyer, I believe the Cover 3 podcast or what, Triple Option, something like that.
Triple Option, yeah.
And says, why would you ever play one of those games like Ohio State playing Texas? Why would you ever play big non-conference games? If we're being completely honest, talking to Urban Meyer, he says, I'm at a point in life where in my 4th job and after getting fired in the NFL, I kind of say what I feel nowadays. I could care less. Why in the world would a Big Ten team who's already playing 9 conference games, why would you ever play one of those games? Thoughts?
My initial thoughts is if you're scared, say you're scared. That's what I want to say. But as he said, I kind of want to acknowledge what he's going through. Why would I make life hard for myself when the committee don't respect my wins or losses in that matter? They'll disrespect me losing more than they will give me credit for winning those types of games in the end. So I get it. There used to be a sense of pride when it came down to these types of situations right here too. But with them playing 9 conference games and he feels like that conference has a gauntlet of teams that challenge them well enough, well, the scheduling better be right and just good business on his end. And he says all that and was getting paid millions from Carolina, man. Jeez, Coach. Sense of pride, I guess.
Yeah, and I'll take the devil's advocate to this here, just trying to, I agree. Like, at this point of his career, he can do what he wants. He can say what he wants. Look, the college landscape has also changed. So I feel like there's a lot more freedom to do a lot more things. The only thing I would say about still scheduling a tougher opponent, a big conference opponent early on in the season, guys, is to really measure where you're at to start things. And sometimes you can learn a lot about your program early on in a season when you're actually facing another really good team that might have to go through their, ups and downs as well. But I guess the one thing is maybe you could use it as a measuring stick early on in the season when you're facing another opponent like that instead of like a Kennesaw State or some random like that.
So Matt Rule goes on to say, you look at a lot of teams, and this is not anti-SEC, but there's some SEC teams last year that only played 3 away games in another team's stadium. 3. We're in a league where some years you have 5 Big Ten home games, some years you have 5 road games. You have to go on the road 5 times in the Big Ten with no Florida, Georgia in a neutral site. Matt Rule is 100% right. He is 100% correct. The way college football is currently constructed, there is no incentive whatsoever to play elite teams in non-conference. None. Especially not in the Big Ten, where he's right. If Nebraska has 5 road games in 2026, why should they schedule a 6th one? And at that point, you're only giving your season ticket holders who pay a lot of money only 6 home games for the entire season. That's not good business if you are a major Power 4 institution. But there is a fix to this, guys. If you did automatic bids for the SEC and Big Ten, this would be fixed. It would be. Because if you could guarantee that the top 4 teams in your conference make the college football playoff, then I'm cool playing Ohio State. I'm cool going to the Big House. I'm cool playing Notre Dame because that's not what gets me in the playoff. How I fare in SEC play is what gets me in the playoff. At that point, I'm battling for seeding. So I am more likely as a college football coach to schedule a really good non-conference team if it has no ramifications on making the college football playoff. That, to me, is where I think the automatic bid model really makes sense for college football.
I mean, it's essentially you curating your pathway to the postseason. I get it. Like I said, a part of me want to be a troll and go about it like, man, just play the games. But what's the incentive of it other than the fact that you get a good gate and ticket sales and concessions of teams that want to travel and do a home and home? In this era of football, everything like this has to be strategic. And when it comes down to it, too, there's the idea of recruiting battles and wars that goes into these types of games, too. You have SEC teams that have beat those types of squads, like it somewhat diminishes the brand. It almost as if they're in a spot to where let's keep our stuff ours. 9 conference games, which is what the SEC is mulling over to, is if you got a good conference is a bit much, man. So, again, I get it. He's business minded. This is also where he played, or is his alum too. So you want to make sure he keep them as high as he possibly can, especially since he's got his big 5-star Patrick Mahomes Jr. quarterback.
Yeah, and it's a different conversation when you're talking about the Big Ten and SEC scheduling these type of home and aways than it is another school that's mid-major in terms of conference, maybe not a top 5 conference, Power 5 conference, that they want to probably, like Will was saying, if you involve that in an automatic bid, they want to schedule these teams because they're not playing these.
It doesn't help SEC or Big Ten teams.
No, I mean, and I understand that point of view as well.
Yeah, there's no reason for Tennessee to schedule Oregon.
I mean, it is fun to watch.
Sure, but there's no reason for Tennessee to do that. An early season loss can torpedo you, and then you're already playing, 2 top 5 teams every year in Alabama and Georgia. Why should I go schedule a third one that if I have 3 losses, I'm out? Right? The only way you do that is if the SEC standings are all that matters to make the playoff. And that's why I think the automatic bid thing has the traction that it does. It brings back important non-conference matchups and homes because I think there is neutral site fatigue among college football fans now as well.
You know what gets me, and it sucks too, because nobody had this type of sympathy for the Vols whenever they had to play Georgia, Florida, and Alabama every doggone year. Now we can run away from opponents. I know, but now we can run away from opponents. I'm being very tongue-in-cheek here when I say that, but the idea that everybody doesn't have to go through that gauntlet because of the way the conference is set up. Like, we're watching Indiana last year. They played the bottom half of what the Big Ten was, right? And they made it, and they went on a run. Schedules. It's an unbalanced schedule in that also.
Totally. So some years you can be Indiana and skate through a really lucky conference schedule because that conference is so big that you are bound to get a bunch of bad teams every now and then, or you can be on the other side of it and just get all the good teams in the Big Ten. It is not an evenly distributed sport in terms of the schedules you get to play. It's why the NFL is king. Because of the way that they set this up to be fair for everyone every single season.
Those games supposed to be 26-27? They were supposed to be?
Tennessee, Nebraska, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And they claim that one of the reasons they canceled it is because they're renovating their stadium and they need as much home game revenue as possible while they are renovating their stadiums. They needed an 8th home game one of those seasons, which, again, makes sense. All these teams are preparing to pay players for the first time. I don't like it from the Tennessee perspective, but it makes total sense for Nebraska. Total sense.
Business.
I know. It is. 615-737-1045. We'll hit the headline of the morning when we come back. A top Titans target has an injury red flag. We asked you on Twitter, do you care about Abdul Carter's injury to where it disqualifies him for the number 1 overall pick? We'll get your reaction and give you our thoughts on that next.
What's going on? 8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Day 4 of the NFL Combine gets underway today. You get to see the defensive linemen and linebackers going through some drills. One of those linebackers we knew wasn't going to work out in Abdul. Now we have a little more insight as to why. Tests yesterday revealed that the potential number 1 overall pick has a stress reaction in his right foot, and the Penn State standout will need to decide soon whether he will have to have surgery. A quote from his agent: "There are mixed opinions on whether he needs surgery, and we will figure that out in the near future." A number of players were given permission to seek a trade in the last few days. A few of them: Devon Godshaw with the Patriots, Jair Alexander with the Packers, Deebo Samuel with the 49ers, but the one Titans fans should pay attention to, Rams guard Jonah Jackson. As News 2's Corey Curtis reporting, quote, "The Titans are very much on his radar." For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW live at 104.5 The Zone and Zone TV transitions into the second half. Kicking off your Thursday morning around these parts, we call it Friday Junior here on the program. Ramon Foster is in Indianapolis, or as Charles Barkley says, in the Annapolis for the NFL Combine. He'll be back with us tomorrow. Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling here in studio, 615-737-1045. There is reporting out there that suggests there is a new best-case scenario for the Titans this offseason that is becoming more and more realistic. And we're going to talk about that coming up in 20 minutes. But, guys, the story that broke while many of us were asleep last night, potential number 1 overall pick Abdul has a stress reaction in his right foot. Tests revealed Wednesday. And Drew Rosenhaus's agent says he's got 2 options. Option 1, he could have preemptive surgery, have a screw inserted in his right foot, and return to working out and running in about 8 weeks. Secondly, he could bypass the surgery, conduct his pro day at Penn State on March 28th, and prove to NFL teams that he doesn't need a procedure. One of those things where he didn't realize he was hurt, and then he learned it in the medical checks at the NFL Combine. How significant is this development specifically for the Titans?
For the way I view this one, man, is can this team, this front office, this new regime afford to have the optics of this be bad too? Because it was brought to my attention also, there was a player in years past with the Tennessee Titans that dealt with a very similar thing, and it was Javon Curse. Did the exact same thing, had a broken foot or a fracture in his foot, and from that point right there, he got back healthy, he missed the rest of the season, got back healthy, and then the next thing you know, he was on another team. And this was a guy who was a former Pro Bowler. And you got to say to yourself, you've dealt with this before, you've seen it. Another guy that went through the exact same thing was Derwin James in 2019. He ended up having a stress fracture in his foot and missed the first 12 games of the season and ended up finishing it out. Now, again, the timelines of these are a little bit different. These guys, like Abdul has time to get this right. But what you say to yourself is, will this linger? Will this pop back up? Do I trust the science and saying that this bone won't be an issue over the course of the year? Because here's what we do know. If you do draft into a team like the Tennessee Titans, the need and urgency for guys to have impact on the game is high, especially if you have a guy in Harold Landry that does find a trade partner on this squad. He's going to have to play a lot, and it's a matter of durability on that foot for that matter. Again, guys have missed extensive time during the season, but Abdul doesn't have that worry right now. But the optics of this, as a Titans fan, like it may be a little worrisome for teams that for fans that have seen this kind of story before.
Not the best timing, I'll say that. And I know Coach Mack we just had on, and he kind of said, no stone gets unturned at the NFL Combine, whether that be your physical or your interview process. Like, everything is going to come out. And unfortunately, in this situation, this came out and he didn't even really know about it. Because technically this stress reaction, when I look it up, it's a condition where the bones in the foot experience microscopic damage due to repetitive stress, causing localized pain, swelling, usually during activity, right? So he's going to continue to play on this if he does not get this fixed now, which I would say, first and foremost, if I'm his team, you're getting this fixed now. Let's just get that done with, right? But in terms of what the Titans play in this, with this possibly being a guy they're going to take number 1 overall, I absolutely think it affects the process. I'm not saying that they're not going to go still and believe in this guy, because he probably would be ready if he goes and gets the surgery now. But you have to think number 1 overall. This is not a situation where it's an injury that you're a lower round, first round pick. This is a number 1 overall. So you have to take it into account if you're the Titans when you're mulling your options. Because again, we don't know for sure what they're looking at right now. And one little thing could maybe, have them turn a different direction. So I don't think it's nothing to be concerned about. I think you absolutely have to take it into account.
So are you willing to draft him number 1 overall despite the injury, yes or no?
Right now, because I'm happy with all 3 kind of suggestions, or 4 when it comes to the quarterbacks, Travis Hunter and this makes me shy away from him. So yes, I think number 1 overall, I'm shying away. But if they do a trade, I wouldn't be opposed to them picking him up even 3rd.
Hearing this, it being a foot, him being a special type of athlete, explosive as hell, I'm probably going to say no.
You're not willing to draft him number 1?
Not right now. This team, in my opinion, can't handle another reset of just bad timing of picks and just I know he has the talent. I know he is one of the 3 that a lot of people have said, yeah, you take him, no questions asked. But to come into the league with this hovering over him, if it's between him and Travis Hunter, now I'm more likely to take Travis Hunter. I'll be completely honest with you. I just don't know if this may be the straw to break the camel's back if he is on and off the field all year long, because training camp can get hard. Those are long days. Heck, he's already been running and training on it now. So I know it's a small fracture, but this is also the same injury that made Yao Ming, who's he's huge, okay? Different sport, hardwood and stuff like that. But, this is what made Yao Ming retire, And, again, there's time. And if I can get him in the building at the draft or before the draft and grab his foot, see him work out, don't have any reaction, I may think about it. But right now, if it's between 2 defensive players, man, give me Travis. I just can't handle that one.
I'm still willing to draft him. I really am not moved by this at all, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
I think that something where he is going to be running in April does not move the needle for me, because that is someone who is most likely going to be available for all of training camp. So that's the other question. If you have a player that you could draft number 1 overall and you're telling me he is ready by training camp to play and practice football, then you absolutely don't change your methodology to this whatsoever. You do exactly what you were going to do before.
What if he doesn't do the surgery, Will?
Then he's not hurt.
Because
he didn't know
he's not hurt.
He didn't know this was a thing until he had a medical check at the combine. So he's not in pain.
But it's not going to get better unless he gets surgery. Over time, you're going to keep on putting more pressure on that foot, and you're going to be competing at a whole different level on top of it.
Okay.
So at some point, your foot is going to need a screw in it.
Maybe.
Maybe
not.
There's a maybe to that. The only thing that the reason I said no is this: I do think he can turn into a real good pro. I just view this situation for this franchise is the sins of the father. Is the way I look at this one, okay?
And that's not fair.
I know it's not.
It's not fair at all.
It ain't fair at all. Will,
this is not Caleb Farley.
It ain't.
It could not be more different.
It is number 1 overall, and there are injury concerns coming into it.
There's not the way Caleb Farley was. Not the way even Jeffrey Simmons was.
To Caleb Farley, and Caleb Farley was in the 20s in terms of a pick. This is number 1 overall. It's not an injury to that extent. No way. Absolutely not. But it is an injury, and it is something where he's also healing that shoulder. He's not 100% healed from the shoulder yet either. Close, yes. It's bad timing. I'll say that. It's really bad timing for the young man.
For me, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
But for me, I don't think this is a huge deal, but the Titans should definitely act like it is.
100%.
The Titans should 100% act like it's a big deal. That way, if you perhaps do trade back with the Giants to the 3rd overall pick, you have a higher chance of landing. If that is who you think is the better of the 2 elite prospects, you would have a chance of landing him. And like I said, I don't think this is a huge deal because he played through a legitimate injury and still had a successful game against Notre Dame. So, like, if a stress fracture is what's going to prohibit him from having a successful rookie season, then there's bigger issues there than just the stress factor. But there's so much time to fix this.
So there is new reporting as of 1 minute ago, actually, from Adam Schefter about Abdul Carter. Says doctors told Abdul Carter that after further scans on his right foot, surgery is not advisable. So Carter will work out at his March 28th pro day. And Drew Rosenhaus says, I couldn't be more confident that this will be a non-factor where he's drafted. He will put on a show at his pro day. So there you go. Surgery not needed for Abdul Carter after all.
So he's going to perform at his pro day.
He's going to do his pro day, and he is not going to get the foot fixed.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel better now.
I don't even
feel
think
better now.
I don't think the timing is that bad because I'd rather learn this now than in April at the draft or in May. Like, because even if this is the worst case scenario and he did get it fixed now, he's running in April and he's training in training camp.
I'd rather have anything though. I mean, coming out.
Well, of course.
You know,
if he
had to go number 1.
If he had the surgery, red flag for me. But if he's running and doing everything at his pro day at Penn State, I'm good now, okay? I just couldn't handle knowing that the screw is there and there's rehab and hardware inside of his foot. As big of a pick and prospect that he is. So
you think this just goes away then? Like in terms of there will be no further issues with it.
Bones heal all the time. And he's clearly been working out on it too. Like, here's the other part of it too. We don't know if it's the outside foot. Who was it? Derek that had to get a couple screws in his foot?
Well, and that was a Jones fracture. That's not the same thing as a stress reaction.
This is. I'm just saying long-term, guy. That's all I'm saying.
Not long-term. It should be fine, especially if he doesn't have to have surgery. This is a rest situation there.
Yep. Not a big deal.
All right, if it was the surgery, then I'm going Travis, though. Again, like I said, we said it. It's not fair, but the sins of the father, man, is all you think about. Because again, our job is to inform this fan base too, and a lot of the stuff that we say about these prospects and what this front office is doing, like the ones that comment to us are of the mindset, well, we can't trust him. You know, so if he does have a re-injury, all it does is bring a bigger black cloud over all things that you've done, even if it's been some good.
I will say this could be the best thing for the Titans. Honestly, if this allows Abdul Carter to fall to the 3rd pick and you can trade back there and get him 3rd when you probably would have taken him 1 if you stuck at 1, then this could be a blessing in disguise. Not for Abdul Carter because he's got to deal with it, but for the Titans, this could be manna from heaven. The fact that this came up at this point. 615-737-1045 on Twitter at Ramon Kayla Will. We asked, does Abdul Carter's foot injury disqualify him from becoming the number 1 pick by the Titans? 51% of you say yes, 49% of you say no. So you're very split. And that was before the new info came out a few minutes ago from Adam Schefter that he will not need surgery. So maybe that changes the answer for many of you as well. Coming up, we'll get to Michael in Clarksville on the phones. We'll get to your take, and we'll get to a scenario that is potentially unfolding for the Titans. How Matthew Stafford could impact the Titans in the best case scenario, in my opinion, for the offseason. We'll talk about that next. What's up? It's Will Bowling. Is your water heater not heating? Maybe your sink is leaking, the drain is clogged. You got that list of things around the house that just are not working the way that they are supposed to. Well, I'm here to tell you, available 24/7, 365, our expert friends at Lee Company, they got you covered for all of your plumbing needs. And right now, you can enjoy $30 off a plumbing service call for a limited time. Just contact Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 Or you just head online to leecompany.com and make an appointment to take care of your home's plumbing from top to bottom. Again, that's $30 off your next plumbing service call at leecompany.com. And when we say all you need, truly, you just hand them the to-do list. You hand them the list of things that aren't working. Lee Company, they are always there to help. With over 80 years of experience, they've been trusted here in Middle Tennessee since 1944, open 24/7 with 14 community locations, 615-567-1000 that get $30 off your next plumbing service call at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. RKW on 104.5 The Zone continues in Hour 3 this morning. Going to talk some Tennessee and Alabama hoops coming up in an hour, as Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel will join us. Your phone calls at 615-737-1045 and on Twitter at Ramon Kayla Will, where I have a trade proposal for you from the New York Giants. We're going to talk about how Matthew Stafford is that big domino that could really impact the Titans offseason. But first, we go to the phones where Michael in Clarksville has been waiting to talk Titans this morning. What's up, Michael?
Hey, guys, what's going on? I wanted to start out by saying I understand that the overall mentality for the draft among the consensus is to always take the best player that's available. But I've got a different approach to it, and I was wondering what you guys might think about it. I think the Titans should trade away the number one spot. I know that bringing in these top players is normally good for the team, but I don't think with as non-good as our offensive line has been over the past few years, that whoever we bring in is going to help us win games until we have an offensive line that can protect the quarterback long enough for him to get them the ball. Now, what I think they should do is moneyball the offensive line. And what I mean by that is I think they should go back for the last 2 or 3 years, look at every offensive lineman that's available, and find the ones that have the least amount of false starts and have allowed the least amount of sacks, and go after those guys. Get as many picks as you can for the number one overall pick. Get rid of maybe 1 or 2 guys off the team. Snead, I'm not too impressed with. Boyd, I think, probably could go, and it's not going to hurt us at all. And maybe one other guy, and just try to get us as many offensive linemen that we can count on that are going to be reliable to help whoever our quarterback's going to be get the ball down the field. Now, I was wondering what you guys thought about that, or do you just think that no matter who we bring in, it's going to be better anyway?
Hey, Michael, are you then suggesting, obviously trading down, if you traded down, are you still going for another, like a skill position, or are you taking also a young offensive lineman in that first round, or are you just kind of trying to fix things more so in free agency?
Honestly, I would probably do a little bit of both. I would take a young offensive lineman that could have a lot of potential, that looks good in college, and go after the free agency. I think even though, we've got a couple good players coming in the draft, I just think our offensive line needs the most amount of work. And it doesn't matter what kind of caliber players we bring in on those types of positions, whether it be running back, receiver, edge rusher. We need an offensive line that's going to protect our quarterback and get our offensive rolling. I'm sorry, but if we're not scoring 27 to 35 points a game, we're not going to win our division. And we've got to do something that's going to allow our offense and allow our quarterback to look like we did back in the 90s.
Thank you, Michael. We'll talk about it, Michael. We'll get into all of it, and we got a lot to get to here. But so the point is trade back or pick. Are you guys in camp trade back or pick as of today?
Definitely trade back era. I'm in my trade back era.
Kayla?
It's just hard because there's not an overwhelming number one overall pick. So I guess like if you're going to get a good amount of picks to trade back, then I'm in. I want a third rounder for sure this year, though.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in team trade back. I think that's what you do. I think that is the best case scenario. And Art Stapleton of NorthJersey.com and USA Today says this yesterday, which I think is very interesting, because I think this is the domino we are still waiting to understand what the Titans and everyone else in the league is going to do. He says there are 2 scenarios of which I am pretty certain. The Giants will make a strong push that is ongoing to trade for Matthew Stafford. If the Giants don't get Stafford, I believe prior to the April 24th NFL draft, they will trade up to number 1 with the Titans for their quarterback. So this is a reputable reporter in New Jersey and in New York saying there's 2 options for the Giants, Matthew Stafford or trade up to number 1 to take a quarterback and trade with the Tennessee Titans. Guys, it's clear that Matthew Stafford is the domino that creates everything else that happens this offseason. Him picking between the Rams, Giants, and Raiders, it seems, seems to be the big thing we've got to learn in order to know what's going to happen next.
You do. Come on down, Tom Brady, man. Do that recruiting thing that you like to do. That's what you're saying. That like for me, yeah, I think the idea of trading back is also too. Dayball. A lot of folks last year felt like, or at least publicly in the media, thought that he will be let go. His ability to win in that big old market up there is something that has to be established. They are the New York football giants. Like, there's a lot of pride in that, man. Both teams are bad. And it's been contingent upon a quarterback. Daniel Jones didn't do what he was supposed to do, and he got grace. This is, in my opinion, Brian Daboll's last chance, in my opinion, to be that head coach and not go back to just being an offensive coordinator. They got to get that right. And Stafford, more than anything, brings his veteran leadership. He's a big name in a big market. And at some point, if they can get him locked up, they can be competitive. What are they, the NFC East at this point? It is monstrous in that division. They can't win games because they ain't got competent quarterback play, and Matthew Stafford does satisfy that for them. Now, they go rookie and want to move up and get Shador or Cam. That's a big reset. And I don't know how much winning can be done with where that team is unless they oversell for free agency. But, yeah, the Titans need to make that spot at number one. I'm talking about throw some garlic butter on there if you want to, season it up well, and make it look like that you want what they want if they don't get Matthew Stafford. They got to sweeten the pot.
I think it would be interesting, too, in terms of if they did indeed do business with the Giants and traded back to 3. That's not even obvious yet, because if the Giants, who have been tied to more liking Shador Sanders, move up to get their quarterback, and it is Shador Sanders, and let's say the Browns, they're not concrete on a situation yet either. We've heard more Cam Ward tied to them, but they could really like Abdul Carter in terms of the whole Myles Garrett things that is going around. So if that's the case too, and maybe they take an Abdul Carter and the Titans still have an option to get Cam Ward, I'm all in still on Cam Ward, at number 3. So, and also then you would pick up a bunch of picks.
So let's say at this point, Matthew Stafford goes to the Raiders and the Titans make a deal with the New York Giants to move back to the number 3 pick. Is that the best case scenario, in your opinion, for the Titans this offseason?
Yes, in my opinion. To go get one of the top 5 guys, whether that be a Mason Graham at D-tackle, whether that be Travis, whether that be one of the quarterbacks or Abdul, like, you still get the cream of the crop from all the analysts and experts we heard examine this draft class. That is a premium spot to be in, and especially if you're going to pick up another pick.
Yeah, I think it is, because there's just so many questions surrounding who is even going to be number 1 overall and number 2. Those are only 2 spots in front of you. It's not like you're trading down to 6 where, I think all of those guys will probably be off the board. I think you could still get one of your guys that's really high on the board. Plus, you're going to, again, get the picks that you probably want, because, again, they're not going to just do business without getting what they want if they're trading back. So, yeah, I think it might be the most interesting situation. And those who want a quarterback, they could possibly still get the quarterback.
It's the best case scenario. It really is. Art Stapleton and his scenario, USA Today reporter in Jersey, who says the Giants are either going to get Stafford or trade up to number 1. Please, Matthew Stafford, go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Please go to Las Vegas or just stay in L.A. I think this would guarantee you either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, because Adam Schefter's reporting says that the thing he is most confident in the NFL draft right now is that the Browns are taking a quarterback.
Whoa.
So if that is the case and the Giants are trading up to take Shador Sanders, you get the best player in the draft with the number 3 pick. And whether that's Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, you could have a different idea on that. But either way, one of those 2 guys is the best player in the draft. No question. No question. If you can give me the best player in the draft and I get a 3rd-round pick and I get something for next season with the 3rd pick, that is the scenario the Titans need to happen. It is the best case scenario.
For what it's worth, I don't think this is too in the weeds on what I'm about to say, but for what it's worth, I had on that big old Vols shirt yesterday, and I was sitting in the convention center having a conversation, walking back to my room, and I run into Reggie McKenzie. And he goes, hey, Vol. Yeah, Vol. He went, hey, Vol. I said, go Vols. And we ended up walking back together and talking, going into the hotel and just discussing small stuff, no in-the-weeds stuff. And one of the things he said, I told him my role, covering the team on the sideline and radio show and stuff. And he was just like, we're going to get this thing together. Now, that's what he's supposed to say, right? As somebody that's in the front office here evaluating this team, especially with his history. But, like, the confidence of knowing what you want to do, how you got to build it. Like I brought up Mason Graham a second ago. Who's to say they won't go get a guy like him who's been one of those guys that's been a top 5 prospect for every team, especially if you're picking at 3 and you need to shore up one side of the football. If both quarterbacks are gone by 3, so if you're telling me the Giants move up to 1 to get their man,
yep.
If there's the conversation that Cleveland's going to get theirs too, like, think about what if you're really splitting hairs on what you want to do. If you have a monstrous defensive front, right, Mason Graham or Abdul Carter, like that really sets it up to where the defense can get off the field and get the offense the football back. Now, free agency handles the quarterback or you get one down the line and not this year. But he he expressed it last night, we're going to get this thing right. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm sure. And they understand there's a long way to go before there's a whole lot of winning with the squad too, man. So it might not be sexy. I saw somebody in our YouTube chat say a second ago too, we're discussing these picks and moving back. Man, I'm tired of linemen. Go get me an exciting pick.
Yeah, I am too.
I know. But what did Kansas City experience this year in the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah.
Take your medicine.
Front. I mean, and Borgonzi said it to us a million times in terms of when he spoke. He said we have to take care of the trenches first. And that doesn't mean they're going to go draft a lineman first, but it could very well mean that they fix that.
Yeah.
Or
and
attempt
real quick,
to try to start to.
You can't get jealous of what other people have if you're not willing to go buy those things too. One thing that Philly and Buffalo and Kansas City somewhat on the defensive side of things have done is go get player after player that are bigs that have strong impacts on the team. Now, they both got really good picks at quarterback too, but that comes over time.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I proposed a trade at Ramon Kayla Will on Twitter because Dan Brugler of The Athletic has spoken about this, and Art Stapleton talked about it, the reporter out of Jersey who mentioned the trade possibilities. So Art Stapleton says he thinks that Dan Brugler has said you could get a pick swap between the Titans and Giants and 2 third-round picks might get the job done. So Dan Brugler then responded and said, what I said was that starts the negotiations. So the negotiations for the number 1 overall pick, price-wise, to go from 1 to 3, start with 2 third-round picks. He says maybe it goes up to 2 seconds or a second and a third. It'll just depend if there is another team bidding for number 1. So I've split the difference between those 2 prices. Would you accept this trade if you are the Tennessee Titans? Giants receive pick number 1. Titans receive pick 3 and 65, which is the Giants' third-round pick this season, and a 2026 second-round pick. Are you taking 3, 65, and a second next year in order to move back 2 spots? Yes or no?
So 65 is obviously a second this year.
65 is the third-round pick this year of the New York Giants.
Early third, yeah. Yeah, I think I would do it because I think that a third-round pick this year is so necessary, guys, when we keep talking about, well, do they go tackle, in the second round, or do you take a wide receiver? This would allow you maybe to do both, like in the second and third round, because I really do think they need to add to their skill position, and I think you can find value there. Also, you need to have somebody added to your line. And so that wouldn't put you in such a pinch. You could get some of that value in that second and third round for spots that they're really in need of.
First comment on this post will say, I want a king's ransom for the number 1 overall pick. What you can't do, though, is overvalue your home either.
Yep.
You run people away if you get too brash about what you want just because it's the number 1 overall pick. Here's the thing, too. If nobody really has that high of a grade on these quarterbacks, but they need one, and the team is willing to take one and take that risk away from you, and what happens if neither one of these guys work out, right?
then that's their big failure. While you've gone and got a impact player. I voted on this poll to get to the answer. Will, I said I'm taking. Give me number 3. Still I hate to say the word generational. still should be an impact player. Give me the 65th overall pick and give me a second next year. Imagine picking 2 twos next year.
That's big.
You hate it now because you can't see it. But 2 twos next year, I'll live that life because that could be mortgaged to move up into the first round to get your quarterback potentially.
And I just think trading back just to 3rd, there's just so many options still where the Titans could go if they're really in love with all these guys. And again, I don't know. We should hear more coming out of the combine and after 30 visits. But there's also a lot of lies going on. So maybe they are just gung-ho on one guy and, they're afraid if they trade back to 3, they won't get him. But I still think there's a lot of options there.
If I was offered that trade, I would ask for their second this year versus 65, but I would still take the deal. I would not just let that be the deal and be done with it. I would counter with something better, but that to me is the floor. If I'm the Titans, I'm not taking anything worse than this. 365 and a second next year, but I would eventually take it. Yeah, I would.
Is there any way that I'm looking at the comments? They're hilarious, first and foremost. Okay, but is there any way that the Titans can strong arm them? Like, I know it's such a hypothetical question, but here's the thing about it. And that's what I was going to say. Like, a good negotiation for the folks that's been a part of it is where both sides feel dirty. Like you feel like we didn't get everything we needed, but neither did they.
So, because I don't think there are enough other teams that want to make this deal. Mm-mm. That's the problem.
Nope.
Yeah. The Giants are the logical team. If Matthew Stafford is a Raider, that takes them out of the equation to come up and get a quarterback. So it pretty much just leaves the New York Jets.
Exactly.
It would just be the Jets as the team that would probably maybe want to do business. And the Jets are expected to be in on Sam Darnold as well. So it's tricky because I just don't think there are enough teams like the Giants who are desperate enough to make this deal. I think it's the Giants or it's no one. Or you're probably just picking somebody at number 1.
What you needed was the Cleveland Browns to have beaten the New York Giants or the Vegas Raiders last year. Like that, that's your issue is they didn't win enough games, man. And you can't predict that or not lose to Miami. Golly, looking at their streaks of losing, how the hell they beat Pittsburgh but lose to doggone Miami Dolphins late in the season like that? That's the way it goes. May have been
it's the story of bad NFL teams.
May have been a team.
Your reaction next at 615-737-1045. Would you take the following trade? 365 and a second-round pick next year for the number 1 overall pick from the New York Giants. We'll talk about that more coming up next. RKW on 104.5 The Zone continues. Wrapping up hour 3. We'll catch you up on headlines of the morning coming up in 15 minutes. But first, we go to the phones where we have asked the people, would you take the following trade if you are the Titans? Pick number 1 in exchange for picks 3, 65, and a second next year from the New York Giants. 615-737-1045. Aaron is in Jacksonville. First up.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for taking my call.
Yep.
I actually was calling about something else, but to answer that question, I wouldn't take that trade. If I'm giving you a quarterback, then I at least need a first-round pick next year. I would not take the second. But I do agree that is the starting point, but I personally wouldn't take that trade. However, what I was calling in for was I haven't really seen this take yet, and so I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts on this. With Abdul kind of being the first-round pick that people are talking about, why is it that he's not getting any pushback for this only being a one-year wonder type thing? Like last year, James Pierce had a really good season, was talked about as a first-round pick or first overall pick.
Yep.
This year didn't really do too well. Abdul Carter has a breakout season this year, and it's only been 1 year. And no one's worried about, is this just kind of just a year thing, or is he really this talented?
Yeah. It's a good question.
And I'll be the first to say Babs brought it up on 3HL. She's brought it up multiple times. And, she saw one game in person, and he was actually good, she said, in the game. But she did see moments where he was handled pretty badly in terms of a guy that's a generational talent. Shouldn't be handled like that. And she did mention this is just 1 year that he's played edge. So I will say Don Davenport has brought this up.
And so what have you done for me lately, League? That's why I've seen it happen time and time again, especially at that position.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that he's only played that position for 1 year that people feel like, wow, how good could he be when he trains it for multiple seasons? That's why. It's because he's only played that specific position. He was an off-ball linebacker, so the fact that he's played edge and had, college football leading amount of pressures with only 1 year playing edge is why. People feel like his ceiling is really high.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Parsons also. That's why.
Similar, yeah. Same place, same school, same everything. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
100%. Noah up next wants to talk about the trade proposal. What's up, Noah?
Hey, man, how are you guys doing today?
Great.
Good morning.
Hey, so I if I'm the Titans and I'm Brian Callahan, I'm trying to push for kind of what Will said earlier. I'm pushing for a second this year and a third next year, just knowing how hot of a seat I'm on. But with Shadur and Cam Ward being so neck and neck, okay, say we trade with the Giants. Well, we heard grumblings earlier in the year that Dion is going to have an impact as to where Shadur goes. So what if New York flips a coin and it lands on Cam Ward and they take him number 1, and then Cleveland's at number 2 and they decide to take Abdul Carter? Well, you've got Shadur and Travis at number 3. Are you guys going with a quarterback, or are you going to go with Travis?
Thank you, Noah. I would go Travis, because if you are trading back, it means you don't have strong enough convictions about these two quarterbacks to take them. Like, I don't see a scenario where you're kind of in on a quarterback and take them with the top 5 pick. If you're not willing to take them at 1, I would not be willing to take them at 3.
I still think it depends on what happens truly before that. I don't think they could be totally out on a quarterback. I really don't. I still think if it's the right quarterback, and that's right. I mean, if it is Shadur or Cam that they have stronger feelings about, I don't know that. I would probably go Travis Hunter if Shador's left, but that's because I've been strong on Cam Ward. I don't know if they're that way.
Yeah, and also real quick for me, man, these team owners and GMs, they don't give a doggone about Deion Sanders and his opinions about his kid. No. I just want to put that out. They could care less. You got a college team to coach.
The Deion thing is a non-factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When quarterbacks are this high in demand, like these teams that need a quarterback have not been good enough at that position to be choosy about whose dads they are.
No.
Like, you just take the good quarterback and you make it work. 100%. Ryan is up next. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Good morning.
I'm okay with it if they take Hunter or Carter at 3. I'm perfectly okay with it, but if they take a tackle, if they take Indy, if they take a corner, I'm going to be pissed because the draft is so deep, especially at tackle and running back. Why take, unless you just love a guy, which I get that perspective too, but to me, if you're going to trade back just to 3, then that means you're serious about getting a person who's going to have an immediate impact. I think both of those guys do, but I'm going to make a prediction, and I will call you guys back on Monday, May 6th, I don't know, whatever that Monday is after, and say, or April 6th, whatever it is, the Titans will trade back twice. Titans, if they trade with the Giants at 3, they'll trade back again with another team and pick up more draft capital for this year and get deeper.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the call. That would surprise me. But stranger things have happened.
This is where Don Davenport's husband, Travis, is all about. She was just like trade back and then trade back again and just stack up more picks. He's been saying that for the longest. So if that happens, man, Babs, you gotta buy that man a nice steak dinner, okay?
Jeremy up next on the phones talking Titans at the draft proposal. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, good morning, guys. To me, there's not enough compensation for that pick, but I think that it plays against the Titans where it just seems that there's not a lot of teams who we've talked, the Jets and Giants and so forth, all these teams that do need a quarterback. It just seems like none of them are beating down the door at the Titans, like creating any type of bidding war for this pick. And it's almost like to take that type of deal would kind of just like, we're kind of settling. That's the best we can get because, I think that with the, like where Travis Hunter won the Heisman, if Shador or Cam had won the Heisman, would that have created, more of a market for it? Would the people be more, enticed to try to make some sort of trade to get one of these guys because they're like at that point being projected as being such a significant talent that they're going to, change the trajectory of one of these teams or something like that. So maybe if you threw in some sort of conditional things with the trade, like, hey, if you draft Shador or whatever and he plays X amount of games and you win X amount, he throws, so whatever, could we get a conditional to get like extra picks or something like that? Could that be something that could be negotiated into it? That's just all I had to add to the conversation.
Thank you, Jeremy. I mean, it could. I doubt it would be, but the conditional part of it, I think you're talking a little bit more into intricacies that are unlikely at that point.
I just received a text from Travis, Bab's husband, and said, "Yes, sir." As far as the
trade, he said, "Bring me all the picks and steak that you have."
Yes, on one plate, please, funny. And thank you, man. Having a number 1 overall pick, I thought was going to be a good thing. What it's going to do is end up splitting the family up. It seems like at this point.
At this point, I think Titans fans need to be prepared that you're not going to get 2 1s.
No.
Just to move back to the 3rd pick.
Mm-mm.
No.
There's not enough of a market to get 2 first-round picks. I think the best case scenario is you get 2 seconds to move back to 3, but I don't think it's likely the Giants are giving up essentially another first-round pick because pick 35, let's be honest, or pick 33, whatever it is the Giants have, is right on the cusp of being a 1-2.
And they're still rebuilding as well. So
big time.
I'm trying to remember, where was Houston at whenever they traded up to go get C.J. Stroud? Or the second pick at 11? And then they also traded up to give him and gave up those other draft picks. I forget where it was in order for them to get that pick.
12.
They were 12 going up to 2.
So they went from 12 to 3 and to select Will Anderson. And the thing about that was the value of that pick was lower because they'd already taken C.J. Stroud the pick prior. So they were not moving up for a quarterback, so they got a deal. That's where the Texans were really smart within that, is they took C.J. Stroud off the board first, they lowered the value of the pick, and then they traded for the pick. So the Cardinals received pick 12, 33, a first next year, a third next year from the Texans, who got pick number 3 and a 4th.
Yeah.
For which they took for Will Anderson. 615-737-1045. We'll catch you up on headlines when we come back. Some rule change proposals and a quarterback that we have talked about that could be a target for the Titans who appears to be off the board this offseason. That's next.
What's going on? 9:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Day 4 of the NFL Combine gets underway. First day of on-the-field workouts. You got the defensive line and linebackers today going through some drills. We knew Abdul was not going to work out. We had a situation come out overnight where tests yesterday revealed that he had a stress reaction in his right foot. We got an update on that story this morning via Adam Schefter, who reports doctors told Penn State defensive end and projected number 1 overall pick Abdul that after further scans on his right foot, surgery is not advisable. Carter will work out on his March 28th pro day at Penn State. We got a quote from his agent again. Quote, "I couldn't be more confident that this will be a non-factor where he's drafted. He will put on a show at his pro day." A number of players were given permission to seek a trade in the last few days. Devon Godshaw of the Patriots, Jair Alexander of the Packers, Deebo Samuel of the 49ers, but one who Titans fans should pay extra close attention to, Rams guard Jonah Jackson. We have News 2's Corey Curtis reporting that, quote, "the Titans are very much on his radar." For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show, 9 a.m. in Nashville, here already on a gorgeous Thursday morning in the Music City. Ramon Foster is in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine with us for another hour today. Kayla Anderson and Will Bowling here with you in person in Nashville in studio. And coming up in 15 minutes, we'll be joined by Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel previewing the biggest game in college basketball this weekend, Tennessee and Alabama. The real question this morning is, will Ramon Foster find himself in a suite today in Lucas Oil Stadium to watch some combine workouts?
No, because we're doing a podcast before we leave, then we're hitting the road. Yeah, timing,
Dang.
man, timing. Coach Mack will, though. I do know that for a fact. I think he's headed over soon after we hit the road to go do Mack-like stuff. So timing restraint on this one.
Did you connect with TD and Buck?
I did not yesterday. There was no plans for it last night.
Okay.
Buck ended up going to Bloomington.
They went to Indiana.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He went to go see IU, and I was just chilling last night. I sat down at a Mexican restaurant and met with some of my NFL folks from the league office. Had dinner with them, man, and went and had a stogie earlier in the evening. So I had a chill, planned evening, man. That
Good for you.
I've been tired. I slept like hell.
This is the longest you've gone without being at a baseball field probably in weeks.
Hey, and you know who's feeling it? My wife. Okay, because we got baseball every single night this week, and I mean you since last Saturday up through this upcoming Sunday. We're at a baseball field. So
I feel you.
That's the life we live.
It is that time of year.
People either don't want to hear your problems or don't care about them. So don't feel sorry for me. Okay. Hey, don't feel sorry for me.
Fair enough. The NFL is going to use technology to measure first downs. Finally, in the year of our Lord 2025, Kimberly Fields, the NFL's Senior Vice President of Football Operations, says the goal is for virtual line-to-gain measurements to start next season. The league tested Sony's Hawkeye tracking services in the 2024 preseason and in the background during last year's regular season, apparently, we're just now learning. So the technology does not track the ball, with officials still needing to spot it, but Replay Assist will confirm accuracy of that placement. Since the technology requires additional cameras in every stadium, there will be more and better replay angles of forward progress, it says. I think guys, especially after Josh Allen of the Bills were famously ruled short for a QB sneak that it felt like was probably good enough for the line to gain. This will be significant, and I think it'll be a thing that we'll see immediately.
Absolutely, man. And here's the other thing, too, man. The game is too big now, and there's too much money. If if I remember correctly on what I read, like the betting world and the NFL broke another record last year on the amount of money that poured into it.
I'm sure.
So to have, to not have the technology of finding the first down or and guys being able to like spot the ball and it's a yard short of where it should have been and the kicker missed the field goal and then in return you lose money. Like there's a lot that has to go into it. So the NFL is right to invest in these type of technology parts that you can incorporate into the game that doesn't also stop the game. It just help enhance what's right or what's wrong, man. I'll live that life. And I'll also, if it only takes 10 seconds, say, yeah, it's a first down or not, I think that's definitely doable considering that might mean a parlay hits on a Sunday and I got Ron Slay as rich as hell. Come on now.
Yeah, it's not like we're like bringing in robotic umpires. Maybe that's the future in terms of baseball. But I do like keeping things somewhat the same, but also being able to get detailed enough where these are critical situations sometimes, especially when it comes to playoff games. And you still have the chain guys. You still have, spotting it manually, but then you are going to be able to get specified if needed. I'm all about it. I'm surprised it took this long.
And then the other thing, too, for me, man, is not just the spotting, too, a spotting of the football, but it's also the calls that are being called, too. Like, and there's no criticism on the referees, but anytime there's a big pass down the field or, a big play that just happens in general, most fans, I feel like, hold their breath because they're waiting to see if they see laundry on the field. So if you can at least eliminate the spotting of the football to where you eliminate the referee's involvement in the game, yeah, that's where you want to be as a league, man. It's too big. It's too much money and dollars that go into it for the simple things to be wrong like that.
Yeah, the competition committee favors expanded replay assists to be limited to penalties called on the field. Another report that came out of the combine yesterday. They are not recommending that the changes go as far as some would like, though. So Troy Vincent told reporters yesterday, the NFL Executive Vice President of Football Operations, the discussion of expanded use of replay assist has been limited to reviewing penalties that have been called on the field. So if you did not have a face mask call, replay assist couldn't then throw a flag. It would be more like, hey, face mask was called. Replay assist can then come down and say, hey, actually, that shouldn't have been called. He didn't get the face mask. Things of that nature. So Troy Vincent noted a team could propose a more expansive increase of the use of the system, but proposals backed by the committee tend to get more traction, the competition committee, in voting by the 32 teams.
By the way, did you see our teammate Buck Rising tweeted this out just a few minutes ago? I guess they're putting Cam Ward and Shador tomorrow for their media sessions at the exact same time. So if you want to talk to one or the other, like they're just going to put them out there together, which is kind of weird, considering the gravity of those two that they hold in the draft.
Oh, no doubt about it. It's the exact same thing with Abdul Carter and Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M yesterday, too. And, of course, I mean, split the crowd. That way you also don't have guys feeling bad because I saw a linebacker, a defensive lineman the other day that was at a podium by himself and no reporters was coming over. So you kind of stop that. It's a little bit of embarrassing, but to get the invite, heck, is what you want anyway. It's just how the game goes sometimes.
Interesting. There you go.
Yeah.
If you missed it earlier this morning, there was an update to the Abdul Carter foot injury saga. Last night, it came out from ESPN's Adam Schefter that in combine medical checks, it was learned that Abdul Carter has a stress reaction in his foot that he did not feel until he got it checked. Well, Adam Schefter says an hour ago that doctors told Abdul Carter that after further scans on his right foot, surgery is not advisable. And Drew Rosenhaus's agent says he is confident it is a non-factor where he is drafted. He will put on a show at his pro day. I wonder, guys, if since this is something that is not painful at all, Abdul Carter has no issue with his foot. I almost wonder if he's going to work out and then do it, then get the procedure, honestly, because he needs some kind of testing. And if I'm a team, even if it doesn't hurt, and if it's only a 6 to 8 week kind of thing and you're back in a couple of months, I'd rather him just go ahead and do it, even if surgeons and doctors don't feel like it is a necessity at this point. This screams to me, I'm going to play on it and test, and then a team is going to have oversight over whether or not I actually get surgery in the future.
Well, you get out of my mind, okay? All right, because that's where I was going to.
Sorry.
So it's two sides of this. For me, it's lying season number one. All right. Drew Rosenhaus, if I'm not mistaken, has over 170 represented players in the NFL.
Oh, he's him.
I was told recently that he has the most clients of any one particular agency of anybody. And I say that to say this. His ability, this is just me speculating, this ain't accusing him of anything if he ever gets wind of this, but his ability to control the narratives because he has so many important clients around the NFL, to your point you just made, what if this is just to shut everybody up and say, hey, he's fine and not to be able to have anything pre-draft that you have to worry about. This may be something you have to worry about later. It is lying season. It is positioning. There's one thing that you don't want to have to deal with is your client having a skid. Now, again, they're saying this is an 8-week thing. Will, you said earlier that the draft is 8 weeks away. We'll see and know most things about him leading up to the draft. But when you have a guy that has that type of influence and immediately says, no, there's a doctor that says he is not advised he go get the surgery. It becomes, again, you better be very thorough on how that foot is, how big of a fracture it is. Also, and do you trust his ability to not have a string of these injuries? What we're dealing with is the shoulder. All right, we played that off, and he had a really great season last year. Now he's got the foot leading into the draft.
Yeah.
It just makes it questionable is all. That's all.
They just have to do their duty. I mean, they've got to do a lot of journalistic things for a football team leading up to the draft. And I think most of it can also come in the 30 visit because they can have them go through some workouts themselves. So they'll have the pro day that it looks like he'll be going at now. But that 30 visit is going to be crucial to finding out all you need in terms of Abdul Carter.
I just don't know if the average football fan understands how many procedures happen this time of year that we never hear about because guys are ready for OTAs in camp. And it feels like this would be another one, even if he does get the foot cleaned up or put a screw in it to fix it. Like, if the guy is ready to play football in May or June without pads on and without an actual football being thrown around, if he's ready to work out, this is a non-issue.
And I get that, Will, but you have to understand also that it's the number one overall pick. And I know I keep saying that, but it makes it that much more important.
Which is why you get the most talented player, which is him.
The real question I have for y'all real quick, if you don't mind, if you draft him, he gets here, and he re-injures a foot, what's your first thought?
Depends on how badly he re-injures it. If he breaks it, that's one thing. If it's Jones fracture, is it just a stress reaction? Is it a stress fracture? Like, I can't deal in those hypotheticals because I don't know what the injury would be.
You just don't want egg on your face. If they're trying to reset everything, this has been the whole thing that they've talked about. Mike Borgonzi, resetting, we're starting fresh, and then you get egg on your face if you have a situation like that. I know it is roll of the dice, but it's always going to come back on an organization like this that is trying to reset their name.
I'm asking it in a hypothetical way because, again, as much a bad fortune this team, this franchise has had, the one opportunity you can get to go get that generational guy, and this if does happen, it makes the fan base lose that H word, and that's hope. And again, the reset of things of bad that happen often, man, it will just suck.
You could play the if game, though, with anything. Like, you could play that of what if Travis Hunter gets hurt because he's practicing more because he's learning to play two positions?
I'm with that.
What if Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders stink? Like, what if Cam Ward throws 20 picks as a rookie? Like, you can what if yourself to death even with the best prospects.
Yep. I'm with you.
Coming up, Mike Wilson, Knoxville News Sentinel, will preview the biggest game in college basketball this weekend, Tennessee and Alabama. We'll do that next. RKW on 104.5 The Zone continues this morning in hour number 4 with Ramon in Indy at the NFL Combine joining us with the power of technology. Kayla Anderson and Will Bowling here in studio. We are joined in Knoxville, Tennessee by the one and only Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel, previewing the biggest game in college hoops this weekend, Tennessee and Alabama. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good, but I'm a little bit jarred by the fact that Ramon's not in studio. That was my only caveat of coming on the show today, so I think I'm going to have to hang up on you guys.
I'm sorry.
He's still on the show.
Well,
Jeez.
listen, Mike, I will do you the solid of not asking you to translate any legalese or talk about anything that happens in a courtroom during this conversation as an olive branch to you.
We're back. We're good.
Okay.
God.
Did you ever think you would be so fluent in courtroom jargon, Mike, as you are now, between Jeremy Pruitt and the amount of lawsuits that Tennessee has been involved in with NIL?
Well, I'm pretty sure that covering Jeremy Pruitt's aftermath got me a 1L through lawsuits. So I felt good about that. But it is funny. I filed a story yesterday on Alberto Osuna's hearing, and I messaged my editor, and I said, let me know if you have questions, because that story simultaneously made me feel as smart and as dumb as I've ever felt in my life.
I love it. It got you a 1L in law school, and it got you some free McDonald's, Mike. All right, so looking at Tennessee and Alabama this weekend, Mike, is Tennessee peaking at the right time? Because the numbers, I know you put the metrics out there the other day, this might be Rick Barnes' best offensive team in his time at Tennessee, and they are living up to the same defensive standard. Is this finally the year that Tennessee maybe times its best basketball at the right time this year?
Well, it's his second best. 2018-19 was number 3 in the country. That Grant Williams Admiral team was obviously electric, but it is the second best offense that Rick Barnes has had according to analytics, metrics, whatever you want to look at, including being better than last season's team with Dalton Connect. And it's funny in a way because you look at it, you don't see it necessarily that way. But the overall offense is better. You've got more balance outside of what they had last year with Dalton. I do think this team is playing really good basketball. I think there's still the small caveats. You got to start a little bit faster. Is shooting going to eventually be a problem? But they rebound the ball so well. Like you mentioned, they play defense at such a high level, just like they always have. So they're always in games with a chance to win because of those things that they do so well, with the toughness, the grittiness, the things that Rick Barnes really preaches.
Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel with us. Zakai Ziegler, Mike, has been unbelievable since he got hurt and missed that game against Florida at home. Do you chalk up his solid scoring performances to just shooting better? Is this sustainable, what he's been able to do these past few weeks? What do you credit his improvement and surge over these last few games to?
Well, he's shooting closer to his career mark. It's kind of a reverting to the mean in a good way. Because his numbers were so low early in the season compared to where they've been throughout his career. And kind of everyone on Tennessee was below where their career marks have been. But you're seeing, Jordan Gainey starting to make shots again. Chaz Lear's hitting them at a high clip like he has most of the season. When you talk about Zakai, like when he's doing it, that changes everything. I mean, Tennessee's offense at LSU in large part was Zakai and Felix Okpara on high ball screens. And it worked like a charm with the way that they executed that. Because to me, I mean, and I've been on this crusade since, I don't know, December or something. Zakai's an All-American. He might be the best point guard in the country because Braden Smith tailed off a little bit. But he's at worst, to me, a third-team All-American this year. And that's a huge reason why Tennessee is in the position it's in.
Mike Wilson with us this morning. Mike, when you look at this team, man, you talk about is shooting going to be a problem. Just how big of a task was it for Zakai Ziegler in this last offseason? Specifically, it seemed like he made it a point, and we're seeing the benefits of it, him being able to shoot the three ball a little bit better, because if you don't have his ability to do it, where else were you going to get it from?
Yeah, first off, Ramon, I'm glad you're on the show today, and I hope you're enjoying Indy. That makes me very happy that you're here.
Mike, I started to mess with you and say the only one I'll consistently show up is for Brent Hubbs, okay? But look, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Is that okay?
That makes me feel the warm and fuzzies on this rainy morning in Knoxville. Zakai's shot's an important part of that game. When you talk about what they do with him in the high ball screen, teams have to respect his shot. They can't go under those screens. They have to be able to stay with them because they know that Zakai can shoot it. And Tennessee's done such a good job with its overall guard play, I think, around him. To me, you look back at Texas A&M a week ago, the reason they won that game is because they have 4 senior guards who played very, very good basketball. for the final 7 or 8 minutes or so. And that's why they won that game. Chaz Lanier's made shots. Jordan Gainey made shots. Jemai Meshack had 2 massive tip-ins in that half. But it all comes back to Zakai Ziegler. Whatever he is doing changes that team. I mean, you can look back another Saturday to the Vanderbilt game where Tennessee's first half was lousy. Zakai went scoreless, comes out in the second half, looks like the best player maybe in the country in the second half, and Tennessee absolutely blitzes that game. So, yeah, when he's out there doing that thing, it changes a lot.
It does. Mike, I'm not going to get to the Alabama game with you or the question that I have. I'm going to save it to last or let somebody else get it. But I just need to let you know, like, this Vol family is crazy, and everybody's everybody cousin, man, as it pertains to, hey, everybody knows everybody, right? Our good friend Ron Slay is calling a college game day game in Florida versus Texas A&M this weekend. How upset and how many red flags will be raised if he's not on that set going absolutely bananas for college game day down in Florida since he's calling the game also?
Well, he should be pretty electric with that, and I'm assuming he's going to trumpet Chaz Lanier a little bit given their relationship. So, I mean, whenever Ron Slay's involved with anything, you've got to tune in, right? You know it's going to be a good time.
Yes, 100%.
Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel joining us this morning on RKW. Going back to Zakai Ziegler, and no doubt about it, I think he's the best point guard in the country. But one thing, if you're going to maybe pick apart his game recently, too, is those first half starts. We've seen him just turn it on in the second half and help this team win games. Is that something at all, Mike, you're worried about once you enter tournament play with him?
I don't know that I'm worried about it necessarily. You'd certainly like to see it be less of a thing, and I know Tennessee's coaches are talking about that. It was brought up in media the other day. Well, they were asked about it in media the other day, and that is a thing. I mean, Tennessee needs to start games a little bit faster and a little bit better. You certainly see the disgruntled replies on Twitter and things of that nature when Tennessee does start a little bit slowly. But it's a cohesive thing. It's not necessarily just Zakai to me. Tennessee's starts have been a little bit slow. You see a lot of people pining for a starting lineup change, and this is not going to happen. I don't see that happening anyway. So Tennessee as a whole, that starting lineup needs to come out of the gates a little bit better because the final 30 minutes of games, they're awesome.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that first 10 minutes can cost you in March. You know, I covered the Michigan State Middle Tennessee State game in the NCAA tournament in 2016, and Middle Tennessee State took like a 15-2 lead in the first 3 minutes, and that's hard to come back from even when you're really good.
Chaz Lanier, clearly he's had some good performances, and there's one thing, though, and go check out Mike's work on Knoxville News Sentinel. One thing that you said he's been doing really well lately when it comes to what he's doing out there.
Rebounding, the game basketball. And obviously that's such a critical part of Tennessee's identity as a program is rebounding. And this is a really good rebounding team, very good offensive rebounding team. Chaz had 9 rebounds the other night. So I went back and looked at it. And in his first 21 games this season, he had more than 4 rebounds twice. And he's had at least 5 in the last 7 games, including an 8 and a 9 in there. So, you know, I think he's just playing harder in different ways. And that's been a message from Rick Barnes the whole season. Specifically talking about setting up his shots, coming off screens, things like that. But now I think you're seeing Chaz apply that to other facets of the game. And he's a big guard. I mean, he's a big, strong guard. And he can rebound, and he's showing right now that he's capable of doing it.
Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel, our guest. Mike, when we talk about Alabama basketball, it feels like the discourse about them is so different than it is about teams that are so good defensively. Like Tennessee's offense is seen nationally as like a disqualifier. Like, you can't win a championship with that bad of an offense. Well, what about Alabama's defense? A team that KenPom has 40th in defensive efficiency this year. Tennessee's 25th in offense. Why is the conversation around Alabama the way it is, in your opinion?
Because they score 120 points sometimes. I mean, that really is what it is. It's the modern basketball fan view.
Right.
I think to some extent, points are sexy. If I can say that on the radio, I apologize if not for the fine you just got. Points are what people like to see. They put butts in the seats. Sorry if I can't say butts either. Like that's what people are drawn to. It's eyeballs. It's, wow, look at the three-pointer. Look at the fast shot. Look at this. I mean, that's just what you're naturally gravitating to because it's easier to see. It's harder to see good defense. It's harder to appreciate a good switch. It's harder to appreciate teams rotating and covering on a quick pass to the corner where the guy was uncovered. those things aren't as easy to see and appreciate. Getting back timely in transition and stopping a fast break. Like, it's just not as easy to see. You have to really watch to see those things. It's not hard to see points. And I think that is always going to factor into that, especially, the NBA with the three-point shooting there. I think that's just trickled down into college sports with basketball, where you're seeing teams shoot, score, and it's fun. It's exciting. It's thrilling to watch. And that's why Alabama scores so many points, and they're so good at it. But yeah, as you say, Tennessee's offense is better than Alabama's defense. Therefore, why is that perception different?
Right.
I think it's just because of what you see and what is easy to appreciate.
So, Mike, is it fair to say Tennessee is a good matchup for Alabama? 3 wins in a row. They swept them last season. What about Tennessee is such a difficult challenge for Alabama in the way they play?
Yeah, for whatever reason, it's very much what you said. I mean, they've had a lot of success against very good, high-scoring Alabama teams. And this one might be a little bit better than last season's. I think the defense is better than last season's for Alabama. They just score the ball. They got, 6, 7, 5 guys scoring double digits. Mark Sears averaging 97 points a game for the 3rd straight season, 4th straight season, I don't even know. They score the ball. But Tennessee, I mean, the guards they have defensively is what I think the difference has been. Jemai Meshack obviously has been a staple of that through his whole career. But Tennessee just frustrates Alabama in their previous matchups. They've been able to get them kind of out of that offense, hold them to significantly below their averages. But also, last year, Tennessee was comfortable getting a little bit more of a shootout, too. Dalton down there was outstanding. And that factored in, too, as Tennessee could play a little bit more of a mesh between their style and Alabama's style, and it allowed them to win. But in the past, it's been Tennessee's defense being able to beat up Alabama's offense.
Mike Wilson with us this morning. Mike, just speaking of closing out the rest of the season, man, when you look at the roster that the Vols have and them only playing 7 guys, why is it a problem and people don't believe in Tennessee? But Arkansas, who's also been playing in 7, Tennessee's much better than. Why is there such a big discrepancy in that situation versus the Vols? Will depth scare you if they have the ability to go on a deep run in the tournament?
I think depth always scares you a little bit there. But Tennessee reached, I think it was the Sweet 16, playing pretty much 7 players that in 2019, I'd like to say that was. It's not unfamiliar. Coaches do typically shrink rotations when you get to tournament time, just because you really whittle it down to who you can trust in what moments. And realistically, Tennessee's been playing a 7-man rotation for the bulk of the season. Darlin Stone-Dubar might give you 5 minutes. Bishop Boswell might give you 3. So you're playing a 7-man rotation. It does concern you a little bit where you wonder if players wear down, especially with Tennessee's playing style, for how physical it is and how intense it is. You start to wonder, okay, well, it's been a lot of practices, a lot of months, a lot of this, a lot of that. And I do think that's a common discourse you see when it pertains to Rick Barnes. I think Tennessee fans believe that the way that they play, the way they practice, and the number of players is why he hasn't had the level of success in March that many people talk about. This team, it is what it is. You had limited numbers going into the year. You lost a couple guys. You were always going to have this situation. I think they've done a pretty good job of managing things about as well as they can. But, yeah, again, anytime you get into March with 7 players, it's going to be something people talk about.
Mike, do you think with this win if they can get this win against Alabama this coming weekend, do you think that greatly increases a chance they could get a number 1 seed? Or is this kind of maybe they already kind of have it decided? And now it depends on what happens with the rest of the people in front of them. But do you feel like it would greatly improve that?
It certainly wouldn't hurt it. That, to me, is a dictating factor on Saturday. And Alabama, too, their closing schedule, they still have to play Florida and at Auburn.
Yeah.
So there's a world in which Alabama kind of plummets a little bit at the end of the season, and Tennessee can leapfrog into that 1-seed line. They certainly got help with Georgia beating Florida the other night as well. When you're talking about kind of those back 2 number 1 seeds that Houston's in the mix for as well. I would say certainly a winning against Alabama changes Tennessee's geography for the NCAA tournament, because Lexington might come back into play. Instead of potentially being sent to Cleveland. It might bring Raleigh into play, which those are obviously more favorable locations than Cleveland, Ohio. So that's at stake too. But, yeah, I do think that a win against Alabama has a lot to say about Tennessee's seeding and where it might land regionally in the NCAA tournament.
Go ahead.
Mike, with the tournament as pressurized as it is, and the type of coach that Coach Rick Barnes is also,
Is there a level of him needing to dial it back to let the guys be themselves? Because when you mentioned them playing with their 7, like that 7 and him have to be very intimate in how he coaches and deal with them. But when it comes time to playoffs and March Madness and everything else, like, do you see him changing his style a little bit as it pertains to how hard he's going to go at those guys? Or Coach Barnes is just who he is at this point?
It's the latter. Rick Barnes is going to coach how he's going to coach. He's been doing it a long time and had a lot of wins for a lot of reasons, and that's one of them, is the way that he coaches, and that's not going to change. And I'm also a person who leans into players win games that time of year, especially the first game in the weekend. I think the quick turn, that 48-hour turn or so, that's where the coaches really come into play in the NCAA tournament. But to me, it's players winning games that time of year. They know who the coach is. They know how they're going to be coached. It's a matter of going out and winning those games.
He is Mike Wilson at By Mike Wilson, where you follow him on Twitter, covering Tennessee hoops, Tennessee athletics, slaw jargon, and Tennessee baseball, of course, as well. I can tell there is an extra pep in Mike's step because he's been able to sit outside watching baseball games, and that is where you're at your best, isn't it, Mike?
I actually am going to Houston for the baseball series this weekend.
Nice.
Covering the basketball games. So
nice.
That is a thing because obviously Tennessee baseball is a juggernaut too.
Crazy. What a world we live in. Thank you, Mike. Good to hear from you, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep, I expect some money in a Chick-fil-A bag from you guys.
On the way. There's Mike Wilson with us this morning here on the show. I'm doing one of the baseball games next week, so I'll have to bring Mike a Chick-fil-A bag when I'm up in Lindsey Nelson Stadium.
There you go.
Hey, the man.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, on a radio station this morning in Dallas with an interesting comment, guys, says that he has heard the Cowboys have talked to the Titans about moving up to number 1.
Wow.
Full quote. I did hear yesterday, you hear all sorts of stuff, and I don't like to traffic in stuff I've heard because I don't know how accurate it is. It's funny because that's exactly what he does in the following quote. But I did have someone tell me that the Cowboys have talked to the Titans about moving up to number 1. He goes on to say, now, I think a lot of teams talk about moving around, and I don't know if you guys have heard that. But that's a jump, and I don't know what you would have to put into that or whether you'd have to put Micah Parsons into that package if it would go that way. But teams talk all the time. They talk all the time. So you have Mike Florio saying, I don't like talking about just things I've heard, but here's something I heard.
I mean, not everybody, a lot of teams that are going to inquire about the number 1 spot. Like, that's going to happen. Mike Bargonzi said it this week. Now, that's the first time we've heard a little bit more about the Cowboys specifically, calling them, yes. But I don't think it's that crazy to look into it, at least at this point. Now, there could be more that comes out. But, yeah, they'd have to bag up something big.
Yeah, no, that's what you want right there. Fight. That's all I'm saying at this point, man. Whoever want to fight over that number 1 overall pick, especially if it's the Cowboys coming up as far as they are, man. The meeting in itself, I think, is something that's definitely reportable, and it's something you should pay attention to. And in my opinion, I think if they are serious or even halfway serious, it raises the price, in my opinion, from the Giants. Yeah. It raises the price.
There is one team that benefits from that report coming out. It's the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
They want all the talk they can get.
If I am the Titans, I am leaking out there that a bunch of teams are calling me. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling them the Jets are interested. I'm telling them the Raiders are interested. I'm telling them the Cowboys. I'm telling them the Rams, if they lose on Matthew Stafford, would be interested. That, to me, screams the Titans want to trade back, and they are putting out there that more teams are interested in the number 1 pick. 100%.
Absolutely.
This is almost like an auction. It's somebody just raising the bid of something just because they can.
Going once, going twice, going sold. The Dallas Cowboys.
The most Dallas and Giants thing to do, considering they're in the same division, is to raise the price of the draft pick so they don't get the quarterback of the future. I love this type of stuff.
I love it. I think the more we hear of teams entering the mix to trade for the number 1 overall pick, the more we know the Titans want to trade the number 1 overall pick.
That's also true.
Because it benefits one team to put that out there, and it's the Titans.
Man, Braden in the chat said, although I don't love dropping to 12 bull crap, Braden, you know what you're getting from going to 12 to 1?
Bro, 2 1s, 2 2s, maybe 2 3. Like, you're getting what you got for the number 1 pick in 2016 when you got 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 3s to the LA Rams for Jared Goff.
Man.
It's all a game this time of year. Who plays the game the best?
I am turning into Ron Swanson. If the Cowboys won the pick, son, what I think you heard me say was bring me a lot of draft picks. What I said was bring me all the draft picks you have. 615-737-1045. Wrapping up the show with headlines on the way out as we continue next. So if the Dallas Cowboys are really interested in trading for the number 1 overall pick, there is a scenario we've got to discuss. Here as we wrap up the show on RKW 104.5 The Zone. Ramon in Indy, Kayla and I here in Nashville. Is there any scenario where Dak Prescott is in that trade from Dallas to the Titans if they want to make it?
Kirby's begging, please.
Kirby in the background. Please. Kirby, you're not a Titans fan. You have to abstain.
Hey, real quick,
you
gonna tell him,
Titans people.
I won't take that. I'll let
interested?
you make that announcement because that sounds like I'm blowing up my own horn.
Hey, by the way, before you announced that meeting, Kirby and I was sitting here talking. He said it'd be just like Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys to try to move up to get that number 1 overall pick.
100%.
30 minutes later, you broke that news right there. And here Kirby is a wizard out here, man, just knowing how his team operates.
Kirby
knows ball. Yeah.
If for some reason, I would feel terrible for Nashville if they were to trade for, because I don't think anybody in Nashville is that stupid to trade for Dak Prescott. But that would be removing a cancer from my soul.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
If you could get Jerry Jones if you guys could get Jones and Prescott out of Dallas in a trade, I will paint the next stadium every time it's needed by myself and cover the cost.
Jones old, so he's eventually,
I'll take Dak Prescott. I ain't taking Jared.
Who would?
Unless I'm taking him to be in a movie or in a show that's being filmed in Nashville. I'm good.
Wouldn't you have to take on a big amount of that contract?
You would. So Titans would take on cap and cash hits of $47.75 million this year, $40 million in 26, $45 million in 27, and $55 million in 28.
Nope.
Now, that can be negotiated, and part of the deal could be, like we talked about yesterday, you can buy draft capital by buying some of Harold Landry's deal and trading away him to somebody else. That being said, Cowboys are going to have to pay a whole lot of that bill in order for me to even start having conversations about taking that on.
And you're doing it all for what? A quarterback, like you would obviously be committing to him for a minute. And I just, again, if you're going to reset things, like reset them for real. Like don't just go back on somebody's sloppy seconds or a quarterback who I think he's still playing good enough football, but I just think long term, do you want that to be the guy that you're entering the new stadium with at that point of his career?
Hear me out, meow. Okay, hear me out, meow.
Oh God!
Did you say meow?
There he goes.
What?
Did you say hear me out, meow?
Since you've done that bit,
I said, hear me out, meow. What are you talking about? Dak's 31. You need a quarterback. He's a proven starter. There are no strong leadership on the offensive side of the ball, and he's a quarterback. You can afford to pay for it. Make Jerry and his team pay for some of this. It ain't the worst thing to inherit Dak. It's been better than what you've had as of late, is all I'll say. It's just hear me out on that one, especially if they take some of the money. Because if
they'd have to take a lot of the money, though.
Yeah, because who's to say the Titans, if they do move up from 12 to 1, and there will be no quarterback at 12 that you need to take this year, you get no quarterback this year. Next year, what's the guarantee that you're going to be picking top 10 then? Also, right? It's that like those picks and trades are based upon how good or bad Dallas is. If Dallas feel like they can win with one of these younger quarterbacks and they feel better about taking them and also, cheaper, that you might be picking at 18 with their first-round draft pick from the Dallas Cowboys next year.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see.
It could all be just a lie.
I don't think it's realistic. I think the Titans are telling people that other teams are interested in calling them and wanting the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I think if you start hearing more teams entering the trade market for the number 1 pick, it means the Titans want to trade.
Yeah.
Because it benefits no one else. If any of those teams actually wanted to trade, they're not talking about it. It does not benefit them to put it out there and drive up the price if more people are in the market.
Yeah, it does. It helps a lot, though. 12 to 1 is what I'm interested in right now. Everything else don't matter to me.
If you are doing a 12 to 1 trade, then the floor is what you got in 2016. 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s.
Yeah.
That's the floor of what I would take.
I'm willing to go down to 6 unless it is a bomb bag. Like if
a
that
bomb
is
bag?
yeah.
What do you
mean?
mean?
A lot.
Oh, okay.
It's like dropping a bomb.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're saying no matter what, you don't want to go no further than 6?
Unless it's a bomb bag. Yeah, unless you're getting everything.
Oh, I mean the pay scale says it has to be.
Yeah, right.
Like it's going. We're
That's
talking
why
about
it's hard to think it's realistic.
2 1s, but if this is where Jerry wants to go after legacy, Shador.
So we do.
Jerry's going to go out with a bang, literally.
Listen, a lot of people like to leave a lasting impression in these types of moments. No, seriously, think about it. I think that was where John Robinson and were with Malik.
So they just want one of these quarterbacks really bad, you think, if they're convinced that they're going up?
I'm not convinced they're moving at all.
I know. I'm just saying, hypothetically, is that what they're going to get?
Yeah, I mean, they're not moving up number 1 to take Travis Hunter.
I just don't
not
think.
From 12.
Yeah, and I just don't think that you could be 100% like, I don't know. I just don't think that's the draft where you're like, oh, this is the guy.
No, these quarterbacks aren't good enough to go from 12 to 1.
Hey, I'm believing to sell me the bridge in Brooklyn. I'm ready to buy it if it's 12 to 1.
Our final check on our poll of the morning. Would you take this trade if you were the Titans? Giants received number 1. You received 3, 65, and they're second next year. 61% of you said no. Wow. Nearly 800 of you voted, so still time on that. We are out of time. Ramon, travel safe. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
I will, man. Appreciate you guys holding it down, man.
Yes, sir.
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
All right. Tomorrow morning, we will kick off your Friday. We'll have Brent Hubbs. We'll have Sam Phelan of A to Z, who has been in Indy, and we will have Ron Slay previewing Tennessee and Alabama. Looking forward to that. Ramon Foster, send us home.
They always know how it goes, man. Your Twitter fingers and your mic and trading from 12 to 1 is always hot.
None of you guys